Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている。俺の死に様か。
The country has been at war for several years now between two clans, Wasabi and Wagarashi. Naruto remembered this story from her home world. They were on a mission right in the middle of this war. The race against the Wagarashi family was supposed to be decisive. Only she knew nothing about the son and grandson of Jirocho Wasabi. Obviously, another difference between this world and our native one. Wasabi's only son died about 3 years ago, leaving his wife and son under the wing of his father. Akira is now the only heir to the clan, in fact its future, so the Wagarashi seek to destroy the boy. Previously, everything was limited to threats, but the Wagarashi family, apparently, has reached a new level. They hired unknown shinobi to do the dirty work. Neither I nor Mr. Jirocho thought that they would dare to do this. If we had known, I would have paid for a higher rank. I am sighed heavily. My son's life is most precious to me. Akira, sitting next to her, put his hand on her knee and lay on her shoulder. Please help us. We need to consult. Kakashi sighed and took the genin aside. Obito followed them. We will help them, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said firmly. Sasuke and Shikamaru nodded. I thought you would say that. Obito smiled. Are you sure? You did well against the two Chunin, but who knows what awaits us next. There is not much left to the land of tea, but there will be more dangers there than here. The genins nodded. We need to report to the Hokage about the change in mission rank. Kakashi sighed again. Obito nodded and went to write a letter for Minato himself. Naruto felt a sense of stupid déjà vu. Why couldn't any of the first missions in her 2 lives go off calmly and without incident? Looking at Sasuke, Naruto realized that he was asking the same question. When Obito wrote and sent the letter to the Hokage, the team approached their clients. The Chunin had already woken up and were actively trying to get out, but they had no chakra. Naruto very kindly blocked it. We will help you. Kakashi said. Thank you very much. I am said, exhaling with relief. I hope you told us the whole truth. If you have something to say it now. Obito added. I told you the whole truth. The woman nodded, getting up from her seat. Her son followed her. Obito and Kakashi looked at each other. The latter pursed his lips and shook his head, but said nothing. She's lying. Kurama growled in Naruto's head, sensing the jump in her mood. I realized that too. Said Naruto. Obviously, the Jounin also realized this, which is why they reacted so strangely to her words. So, leaving the Chunin tied to the tree in that place, team number 10 and their clients moved on. Kakashi and Iam walked in front, with Obito and Akira behind them. Shikamaru walked right behind the elder Uchiha, and Naruto and Sasuke were a little further away from the others. She lied, Sasuke. The girl said quietly. Yes. The Uchiha nodded. They looked at each other and at the same time looked at Shikamaru, who walked ahead and phlegmatically examined the clouds. Naruto kept wondering how he managed to look up at the sky and not trip at the same time. He guessed it too. No options. Naruto agreed. She walked up to Shikamaru and slightly pulled his hand back, signaling him to step back a little from the group. She's not saying something. Nara said when they fell behind a little. He spoke quietly, but was sure that Kakashi and Obito had clearly noticed their whispers. However, ordinary people were very far from Jounin of their level, so they were not worried about the confidentiality of the conversation. There is one discrepancy in her story. They received threats. Sasuke nodded. There is a war between families. They couldn't help but think that the Wagarashi would take active action. So I only have two options. Either the lady was sure that they would not be able to touch this child, or she was sure that they would not do anything, since she received such information. There can be no other way. Naruto finally said. Shikamaru nodded. The Uzumaki looked at Ayam walking next to Kakashi and at her son. What are you hiding? The group arrived in the land of tea in the evening. Mrs. Ayam was sincerely grateful to the shinobi for bringing them home, and for generally agreeing to continue the mission even taking into account her lies. Mrs. Ayam led them to her house, where a man was already waiting for her and Akira. He looked middle-aged, rather gray-haired, and dressed quite modestly. Naruto recognized this man as Jirocho Wasabi. The boy, seeing him, joyfully rushed into his arms. Mrs. Ayam also quickened her pace and soon stood next to her grandfather and grandson, smiling. Mr. Wasabi, these are the shinobi who saved us on our way home. Ayam said as Naruto and her team approached the customers. We were attacked by shinobi. Thank you very much. Jirocho said sincerely, shaking hands with Kakashi and Obito. We don't even know how to thank you. It's our job to save the lives of ordinary people. The elder Uchiha smiled. You are probably tired from the road. We will give you a tea house. Wasabi nodded towards the building, standing very close to the family's house. You will be able to rest from the road, you will have a few days to recover. We will feed you and give you something to drink, everything will be at the highest level. Said Jirocho. Hatake sighed heavily and looked at the genin. They looked good for children who had spent 3 days in the forests, but they were clearly tired and setting off today would be the utmost blasphemy. Okay, we're really tired from the road. Hatake said briefly and thanked the owner. I suggest you have dinner with us in the house while a guest house is prepared for you. Ayam said. In the meantime, tell me the story of your journey. Wasabi chuckled, leading his grandson and, obviously, daughter-in-law into the house. Oh, I don't like all this. Obito said quietly, turning to face the genin and Kakashi. Strange place, strange people. You're weird too, but we're not saying anything. Kakashi reasoned phlegmatically, to which his partner only rolled his eyes and clicked his tongue. I don't feel comfortable here. Naruto shared, looking around. Now we need to have a quiet dinner, find out something else about the local war, and then we'll discuss everything. Obito said. There's something fishy about this whole story. Naruto sighed heavily and followed Kakashi and Obito into the house. She was followed by Sasuke and Shikamaru, who were quietly talking about something. She didn't like it. I didn't like it very much. It couldn't have been as simple as it was now. When the shinobi entered the house, they saw a truly beautiful room. It was not too rich, but very elegant and well-groomed, cleanliness reigned everywhere, beautiful furniture, and in some places there were obviously expensive things. Naruto also noticed many frames with photographs on the walls. There was one Akira, Mrs. Ayam with some man, Mr. Wasabi with Akira. There was also a group photo of all 3 members of the Wasabi family. The last thing Naruto noticed was the photo of Jirocho and the man from Ayam's photo. Naruto decided that this was the deceased son of Mr. Wasabi. Looking at these photos, Naruto realized that family was very important to these people. She couldn't help but feel envious, because this had never happened in her life. In her native world, she grew up in an orphanage and never knew parental love. She was always optimistic and perky. But what was hidden behind this? A feeling of overwhelming loneliness, a desire to receive at least a fraction of the love that other children receive, and to find real friends. She sought to make up for the missing love with other feelings and emotions. The girl found herself a dream to become Hokage. And she did everything to implement it. She studied, became stronger, earned authority in the village and beyond. It would seem that every day the dream was getting closer and closer. Only Naruto didn't feel it. Did she really need this dream? Undoubtedly, it was the dream of becoming Hokage, seasoned with the desire to surpass Sasuke, that motivated Naruto throughout most of his life. Thanks to this dream, Uzumaki became who she was now. But after the war, Naruto realized that this is not what she wants. The war changed her and made her think about life. The girl realized that she simply could not sit at the post of Hokage. She's not that kind of person. She remained true to her principles, she continued to believe in the future, but she now saw her future differently. The post of Hokage disappeared from the horizon, a new incentive to life appeared, the desire to protect and preserve the village. This became her primary goal, which is why she joined the ANBU, who better to protect Konoha than people close to the Hokage. She didn't want a family because she had one. After graduating from the Ninja Academy, Naruto's family became Team 7. Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi were her closest people. And even though she did not yet realize her feelings for the Uchiha, she felt a deep and strong attachment to him. Then Jiraiya appeared, her mentor, friend, comrade, teacher. Years passed, the family grew larger. Shikamaru, Gaara, Tsunade-bachan, Neji, Hinata, and many others, all these people became Naruto's family. But the war turned life upside down, someone died, someone withdrew into themselves, someone moved away. Naruto loved everyone, Naruto respected everyone, but she realized that family, her own little piece of her soul, should be small. It should include the people closest to your heart. And Uzumaki did create a small, strange family: Sasuke, her lover, best friend and best enemy, Kakashi-sensei, Gaara, another close friend, and Sakura. Even though things weren't as smooth as we would have liked with the last two, they were her family. Naruto also had Kurama, her eternal companion, advisor, comrade, and personal headache. Naruto mourned everyone when she got to the new world. She regretted the missed opportunities, the unspoken words. But she still had a piece of her family, Sasuke. Naruto always considered the Uchiha to be the most important part of herself, her soul. They were one for most of her life. In the new world, Naruto received a father, a mother, and an older brother, but she never knew parental love. Uzumaki could not imagine what happened to her parents in this world, since they were so up in arms against the poor local Jinchuriki. The fact remains that while her parents were alive, she never felt true parental love. But Naruto felt another love, no less important and very strong. Sasuke still loved her, still protected and cared for her. Uzumaki wouldn't know what to do if the Uchiha weren't next to her. Naruto still had Kurama, and the new Team 10 became an important part of her new life. Even though she lost one family, people appeared in her life who were ready to become a new one. Naruto, is everything okay? She was pulled out of her thoughts by Shikamaru. I was just thinking. The girl nodded. Let's go before Sasuke poisons everyone with his dark aura of discontent. Dinner took place in a rather warm atmosphere. Jirocho talked about the country, about his family and son. When Akira went to rest, Mr. Wasabi and I told the story of the boy's life and appearance in the house. It turns out that about 11 years ago, Mr. Wasabi had a very strong quarrel with his son. He did not name the reason, but it was very difficult for him to talk about this topic. Yoshiro, that was the name of Wasabi's son, left home, which is why father and son did not see each other for about 2 years. And then Yoshiro appeared on the threshold of the house, with a small child in his arms and Mrs. Iam next to him. I was really glad to see him. Mr. Wasabi shared. This is how Akira, his own and only grandson, came into Jirocho's life. They no longer quarreled with their son, and Iam entered the family as if she had always been in it. Years passed. Akira grew up as a very smart and talented boy. He loved spending time with his grandfather and father, who taught him self-defense, drawing with his mother, and playing music. He was a very versatile child. And then Yoshiro died. His death did not come as a surprise to the family. A few months before returning to his father, Yoshiro found out that he was seriously ill. Death could come at any moment. The family watched as the man faded with each passing year. And although Mr. Wasabi and Iam and Akira were ready for this, the man's death was still a big blow to everyone in the family. Akira withdrew into himself, Iam's pictures became darker, and Jirocho sharply grew haggard and turned gray. Another problem was interclan warfare. Jirocho tried to protect his family from this feud, but the death of Yoshiro, the main heir, greatly weakened Wasabi's position. Akira became the main heir, and therefore a target for Wagarashi. 2 years after Yoshiro's death, threats began, but they did not take active action. I was sure that they wouldn't touch Akira. Ayam said. But she was wrong. After dinner, the shinobi went to their guest house. They were really tired from the journey, so, after thanking the hosts for their hospitality, the Kanakovites left. The guest house had 2 rooms, a hallway, and a bathroom. It was furnished modestly, but quite aesthetically pleasing in appearance, a small sofa at the entrance, pastel-colored walls and floors, decent-sized windows. In the first room, there was one large bed that could fit about 5 people, and in the second there were 2 different beds. Naruto saw Kakashi and Obito look at each other and wince at the sight of one large bed. Uzumaki couldn't help but roll her eyes. "I won't sleep in the same bed with you." Obito snapped. "I'm not eager either. I'm ready to tolerate these 2 next to me at night," Sasuke said gloomily, nodding at Naruto and Shikamaru. "But your presence, sensei, will be too much for me." Kakashi and Obito looked at him completely indifferently. "Great, then it's decided. Kakashi and I sleep in that room, and you in this one," Obito said, showing the genin to a room with a large bed. "Naruto's and my opinions aren't taken into account?" Shikamaru asked skeptically. "No," Hatake and his comrades said at the same time. "It's clear." Nara sighed heavily, exchanging glances with Naruto. The genin walked into their room, threw their backpacks off their shoulders, and looked around the room. "Who's first in the shower?" Before Shikamaru could finish his question, Uzumaki was already gone. No more questions. Late in the evening, when everyone had taken a shower, the genin settled down in the room. Naruto was checking the remains of food, water, and kunai for the return trip on the floor. Sasuke was reading a scroll while sitting on the bed, and Shika was lying next to him and phlegmatically looking at the ceiling. "There's something fishy about this story," Naruto said quietly. She couldn't be completely sure that Akira wouldn't be touched. And it is unknown where Yoshiro disappeared for 2 whole years. "Before I returned home," Shikamaru added. "Do you think this is all connected?" Sasuke asked skeptically. "I'm sure of it." Nara nodded and closed his eyes. Naruto, having finished checking, lay down between Shika and Sasuke, who also finished reading the scroll. She knew that the Uchiha did not tolerate anyone in his bed except her. In his home world, he had to get used to the fact that he and Naruto slept in the same bed for quite a long time. Therefore, Uzumaki's place for tonight was immediately determined, so that the Uchiha could get some sleep. She would be a wall between him and Shika. Sasuke will be accustomed to feeling her warmth next to him. This will help him abstract himself from the thought that Nara is also sleeping in bed with them. And everything was fine. Until a certain point. Naruto. For shinobi are approaching these people's house. Wake up. Kurama practically growled in the Jinchuriki's head around 2 in the morning. Naruto woke up in Sasuke's usual arms. Trying not to wake Shikamaru, she nudged the Uchiha, causing him to instantly emerge from the dream world. Little could be seen in the darkness, but Sasuke's eyes burned incredibly brightly. Then Naruto woke up Shikamaru. He began to grumble displeasedly, but opened his eyes. "Shinobi are approaching the house," Uzumaki said briefly. "Of course, nothing can be that simple." Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sasuke quickly ran out of the room and headed towards the customer's house. Kakashi and Obito were already here. "Second floor," Hatake said. Naruto, Sasuke, quietly climb up the wall of the house through that window. He nodded to the nearest window. Shikamaru, go around to the other side. There is also a window to the second floor. You've got your cover on. Obito and I will go through the main entrance, so to speak. The genin, without thinking twice, did what the jounin said. Naruto and Sasuke quickly but quietly climbed the wall to the second floor and climbed into the window of the house. They found themselves in a spacious corridor. There was silence and calm in the house, which was already strange. Naruto scanned the house, finding the chakras of Kakashi, Obito, and Shikamaru. Four unknown chakras were next to her and Sasuke on the second floor. Following her feelings, Uzumaki reached the outermost room. Sasuke followed her. The girl directed Fox's chakra to her eyes to see better in the dark, and her partner turned on his Sharingans. Naruto gave the Uchiha, the cover me sign, but before the girl could open the door, Akira's loud scream was heard. The Jinchuriki ran into the room and saw four shinobi holding Akira. One covered his mouth and eyes, another held a knife near his throat, and two more held the boy down. Seeing two red-eyed people, the attackers were seriously scared. "Who you are?" they asked, which was very strange, because such a question clearly should not be asked by people who were holding a hostage. Naruto turned on the light in the room, simultaneously removing Kurama's eyes. "We wanted to ask you the same thing," Sasuke said coldly, launching two kunai. One hit exactly the hand that was holding the knife, and the second flew into the shoulder of one of the shinobi holding Akira. The knife fell to the floor and the grip on the boy weakened. Then Akira hit the second shinobi who was holding him in the leg, and bit the one covering his mouth. The sub-shinobi released young Wasabi, and he ran towards Naruto and Sasuke, standing behind them. "Where are you going?" Shikamaru, who appeared in Akira's room through the window, skeptically asked the would-be attackers when they were about to flee. "These ones are even weaker than the previous ones," Kurama said in his head. "Yes, I feel it." One began to make seals, but Naruto was faster. She made a series of seals and placed her hand on the floor. Small black symbols crawled towards the shinobi, then climbed onto their bodies, shackling their arms and legs. "What's going on here?" Nara asked a reasonable question, knocking out two shinobi. Sasuke sent two more into genjutsu. Obviously, a new attempt to kill Akira. The genin heard the voice of the elder Uchiha from the corridor. He and Kakashi stood calmly and watched the actions of their students. "Good job. Your overwhelming help." Naruto chuckled, to which Kakashi and Obito simultaneously raised their eyebrows. "Why do you need our help? You can cope just fine without it," Kakashi answered logically. "It's hard to even call these shinobi chunin. Where did the Wagarashi find them anyway?" Sasuke asked skeptically. The owners finally came running in response to the screams and noise. Jirocho and Iam looked scared. Seeing the four attackers passed out, the lady screamed and covered her mouth with her hands, but Wasabi frowned and clenched his fists. Akira, who had previously been standing next to Naruto, ran up to his mother and hugged her. "I was sleeping when they grabbed me and closed my mouth and eyes." The boy spoke quietly. "I didn't have time to do anything, and then Naruto-chan and Sasuke-kun came running." "Are you unharmed? They didn't do anything to you?" asked Jirocho. Akira shook his head, pressing himself closer to Iam. "The Wagarashi found out that you returned alive and decided to finish the job." Obito spoke quietly. "But they didn't know that there were shinobi in the house with you, so they were counting on a quick resolution of the problem. If Naruto and Sasuke had not arrived in time, they would have been able to do this." "Why don't you have security?" asked Shikamaru. "You are waging a war with an enemy clan, you must have some kind of protection. Security needs to be paid." In fact, Jirocho noticed. "We have financial problems in our family now. The last of the money went to pay for your mission. I expected to protect my grandson myself, but my money should be enough to pay for Akira's defense." Iam entered. "We will pay you if you protect my son." "It's not about the money," Kakashi said. "Understand that we cannot protect Akira all the time. You need to do something about this. Soon we will need to leave for Konoha, the Hokage will order." "What do we do?" the woman whispered in despair. She took her son by the hand and led him to her room. Everyone looked after them. Kakashi then turned his gaze to the unconscious attackers. Do you have a basement? Or some other room where you can leave them overnight? Obito's question was ahead of him. Jirocho nodded. Let's take them there, let them rest. We'll interrogate you in the morning. I don't think there will be attacks today, but it won't hurt to be on the safe side. Hatake said abstractly, but the whole team understood him. I can keep watch. Naruto said quietly. I'm with you. The younger Uchiha nodded. 2 hours you, 2 hours me. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we'll be with you until 6. Shikamaru will relieve us in the morning. Nara shrugged and nodded. Good distribution. Kakashi approved. Obito and I will interrogate the attackers in the morning. It's unlikely they'll tell us anything useful, but it's worth a try. Obito shook his head at his words. Let's take them, then to their places. Shikamaru goes to rest, Naruto and Sasuke remain in this house. The Wasabi family woke up around 10 o'clock in the morning. A difficult night had made itself felt. The atmosphere in the house was very tense. The shinobi were on standby, constantly watching Akira, and Mrs. Ayam tried to keep her son with her. In the morning, at 8 o'clock, when Kakashi replaced Shikamaru at his post, sending him to sleep a little more, Obito went down to the attackers. They, of course, did not escape overnight, because Naruto set up a locking fuinjutsu of the simplest level. Obviously, the shinobi didn't even know such simple techniques, so they never left the basement. Although what can I say, Kakashi and Obito tied them very tightly at night. The Uchiha spent about an hour with the attackers, but he did not learn anything important. The sub-shinobi themselves did not know anything, they just fled from their country. They traveled around the countries and accidentally wandered into the country of tea. Then Wagarashi's people found them, offered them a job, and the shinobi agreed. Obito found out that they graduated from the academy in their country, the country of lightning, but decided that they did not want to serve it. They just took it and ran away, effectively becoming Nuknin. Some idiots. Obito concluded after finishing his story. He simply couldn't find any other words. And what will you do? Sasuke finally asked. They won't stop until they kill Akira. What if we resolve the issue personally with Wagarashi? Asked Shikamaru. Only they have an interclan war going on. They are unlikely to enter into dialogue unless there is a good reason. And they won't compromise either. Nara reasoned phlegmatically. We need a lever of pressure. Said Naruto. We have thoughts on this matter. Shika nodded his head at Naruto and Sasuke. Before going to bed early in the morning, they had time to talk and come to certain conclusions. But for this, we need to talk with Mrs. Ayam and Mr. Wasabi. If we think correctly, this can help us. Shikamaru said again. Your thoughts? Hatake asked, and Nara began the story. Mr. Wasabi left in the afternoon on business, but he returned only late in the evening, when Akira was already asleep in his mother's room, and everyone else was sitting in the living room, monitoring the situation in and around the house. Jirocho looked extremely tired and exhausted. Obviously, the sleepless night made itself felt at the end of the day. The man had bruises under his eyes, his face was gray. When he saw the whole company in the living room, he sighed heavily, said hi, and sat down next to Ayam. Since everyone has arrived, we should talk. Obito grinned, anticipating this conversation. If the genin's guesses were correct, then the story promises to be long and interesting. This time you will tell us the whole truth. Hatake added. This is the only way we can continue to work. Mr. Wasabi began the story. His son left home after a quarrel with his father about marriage. Jirocho wanted grandchildren, wanted continuation of the family, so he put pressure on his son. Yoshiro could not stand it, exploded, and left home. Jirocho was offended by his son at first, but then he thawed out and began to look for him. However, all his attempts were unsuccessful. Yoshiro hid well from his father, so Wasabi knew nothing about his son's life for 2 years. Jirocho was ready to abandon the idea of marrying the only heir, if only he would return. This happened 2 years after the quarrel. Yoshiro appeared on the threshold of his father's house with his wife and son in his arms. Jirocho was overjoyed, caring and cherishing his daughter-in-law and grandson. Everything was fine until the heir shared the news. He was sick and had several years to live. Yoshiro found out this a month after the birth of his son, so he decided that it would be better to return home to his father, who could help put the child on his feet and be with him when the heir himself passed away. While Jirocho was talking, Ayam sat quietly. She nervously bit her lips, looked away when she bumped into one of the shinobi, and fidgeted with her fingers. "Mistress Ayam, it's your turn. Share your secret with us." Kakashi peered at her with his only open eye, which made a truly creepy impression. Mrs. Ayam met Yoshiro a year after his quarrel with his father. At that time she was not a famous artist, but she still loved to draw. As she said, she met Yoshiro in the park, and a dialogue began between them. "You are a very interesting person, Ayam," Yoshiro said then. They began to communicate. They often met in this park, had long conversations on various topics, and then became friends. Really close friends. That is why Yoshiro entrusted her with a terrible secret: his beloved woman is pregnant. Why was this a secret? Because his beloved woman was the daughter of Mr. Wagarashi himself, Wasabi's main enemy. Arizu Wagarashi was her father's only daughter. She was a really bright, smiling, and cheerful girl. She sincerely loved Yoshiro, waited with special trepidation for the birth of a child, and wanted to have simple human happiness. Arizu left her father 3 years before meeting her chosen one. Then only her mother died. Mr. Wagarashi went completely crazy and kicked his daughter out of the house. Subsequently, he began to look for her, but Arizu, having a sense of her own dignity, refused to make contact with the person who did this to her. When the girl was kicked out, she was practically without everything. She had some savings for a rainy day, but this would not last long. She had to look for work and housing. The girl coped, and then the heir, Wasabi, appeared in her life. The young people fell in love with each other. And the enmity of the two families did not make sense for them. They both left their parents, were lonely people who were looking for their place in this world. They found this place next to each other. When Ayam met Arizu, she was already 5 months pregnant. The girl instantly won the love of the young artist and became a close friend, colleague, and comrade. While Yoshiro was working, they spent time together, had fun and just talked. So, Arizu shared her fears with her. She was tormented by a bad feeling, her soul was heavy. The loved one also began to feel worse than he should have. He was tormented by headaches, slight nausea, and nosebleeds. Her fears were not in vain. Arizu spent the last month of her pregnancy on nerves. She was worried about her lover, about her child, and about her future. The bad feeling did not go away. She was preparing for the worst. "Ayam, promise me something," Arizu once told her. "Everything that is in my power," Ayam said abstractly, finishing the picture. "If something happens to me, you shouldn't leave Yoshiro and our child." "What are you saying? What could happen to you?" Then Ayam frowned. "Life is unpredictable. Please just promise me this. I know that you will keep your word to me." Ayam then promised her to protect Yoshiro and the child. A week later, Arizu died in childbirth. The only thing she managed to do before leaving for another world was to name the newborn boy Akira. The first few months were difficult. Ayam did not leave Yoshiro, and little Akira lived with them, helped as much as she could. The boy began to get used to her, but Yoshiro suffered. He lost his beloved girl, his beloved. A month after that fateful day, he learned about his illness. "I'm thinking of going back to my father," Yoshiro said then. "He must know about his grandson." "What will you tell him?" Ayam asked, rocking the baby. "Don't know. You will say that this child is from me. You and I will get married and pretend that Akira is our common child," Ayam said. "Why do you need all this?" "Because I promised Arizu to take care of you. And you need help now more than ever, Yoshiro." At that time, Ayam did not know about her friend's illness. He told her already at his father's house, when they all got together. She didn't tell anyone about what was happening in Yoshiro's life those 2 years until that moment. This was the first time Jirocho had heard this story in full, with all the details, so now he sat, rubbing his tired eyes. After Ayam's story, there was silence, which was again broken by the woman. "Forgive me, Mr. Wasabi. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that I deceived you. I knew he was not your son. Before his death, Yoshiro revealed this secret to me. He said that you were a close friend and agreed to help raise Akira. Yes, I thought about it myself, the boy was not like you or my son. There were some Shreks in it that were familiar to me. Many years ago, I saw little Ariza." Jirocho sighed. "A couple of years after his death, I began to find out who the real mother of my grandson was. When I figured this out, I realized what had always bothered me about Akira's appearance: he was an exact copy of his birth mother. I won't say that the new information was very joyful for me. But Akira was still my grandson, whether he had Wagarashi blood or not." "But why?" Ayam started, but couldn't finish. "Akira was attached to you, he considered you his mother. And you loved him, I saw it. He lost his father, so I didn't want to deprive him of another loved one." Jirocho explained. "I love my grandson, and you have become our family. It took me a long time to get used to the idea that Akira was Wagarashi's grandson, but I did it." Thus, the Genin's guesses were almost correct. They suspected that Ayam was the daughter of Mr. Wagarashi, and Akira, accordingly, his grandson. They almost guessed right, but they couldn't even imagine that the story was much more complicated than they expected. "I wrote a letter to Wagarashi, in which I told the whole truth. I thought it would help keep Akira safe, but obviously it didn't. I think Wagarashi just didn't believe me. He would have believed it." Obito chuckled. "Naruto wouldn't have believed it herself if she didn't have a personal lie detector." Kurama confirmed that the woman was telling the truth. Uzumaki sighed heavily and leaned back on the sofa she was sitting on. Shikamaru, looking at the ceiling, was calculating something in his head. Sasuke, sitting on the armrest of the sofa, looked intensely towards Ayam. "What if we convince Wagarashi that Akira is his grandson?" said Shikamaru. "After all, according to you, Wagarashi also has no heirs. Such a discovery could not only keep Akira safe, but also end the interclan war." "How do you want to do this?" asked Jirocho. "Can you arrange a meeting with Mr. Wagarashi?" Obito frowned. "On neutral territory. Ayam will tell you everything personally. He will see Akira. If you say that he is a copy of Araizu, then Wagarashi should understand it too. He won't believe it. Wagarashi has always been a skeptic." Jirocho sighed heavily. "What if I try to convince him?" Naruto entered. "How?" Ayam and Jirocho asked at the same time. Kakashi and Obito raised their eyebrows in interest. "Do you know who sensors are?" "Such people are able to sense people's emotions well through their chakra. I won't go into detail, I'll just say that I'm a sensor. I'm good at lying." Naruto did not mention that it is not she who senses lies, but Kurama, after all, her sensory abilities are not yet at such a high level. She did not talk about the QB. Unnecessary information would not benefit anyone. "And he will just believe you?" Jirocho asked skeptically. "We have no other choice. Talking to Wagarashi is your only way to save Akira," Kakashi said seriously. "Something fun is expected. You don't think that this Wagarashi will trust you so easily?" Shikamaru asked skeptically. They, a friendly delegation, team number 10, Ayam, Jirocho and Akira, a couple of fighters, walked towards the port of Degarashi to talk with Kuroko Wagarashi. The team took a long time to decide what composition to go to the meeting. Ayam refused to leave Akira at home, but she didn't have any desire to take him with her. Jirocho said that by seeing his grandson in person, Kuroko would be able to trust them faster. Moreover, as Wasabi said earlier, Akira was a copy of his own mother. So it was decided to take little Wasabi with us. Jirocho also asked 2 of his proven fighters for help. Thus, they did not go to the meeting with Wagarashi with all weapons. Naruto was sure that Wagarashi would bring with him several unknown shinobi and his people, when, in fact, they only had 6 people truly capable of fighting. Of course not. Sasuke snorted. But we need to convince him that we are telling the truth. That is, we don't have a plan. Shika said not too happily. We are going blind, said Kakashi walking next to him. We don't know who will be there, what will be there. We don't know anything. We will act according to the situation, as if things happen differently in the life of a shinobi. Most of the time, nothing ever goes according to plan for a shinobi. Naruto, as an experienced fighter, has to agree with this. No matter how many missions she completed, something always didn't go as planned. What could go wrong? I asked Naruto a rhetorical question. Naturally, no one answered her. When they approached the port, the Wagarashi were already there. Uzumaki immediately scanned the surrounding area and found 4 Chunin-level shinobi. There were also 6 non-shinobi fighters who stood on both sides of Wagarashi. Naruto was once again convinced that she was right. Hiroko himself stood with his arms crossed behind his back and grinned. Shikamaru and Sasuke covered Akira, Kakashi and Obito stood next to Jirocho, and Naruto stood next to Ayam. 2 Wasabi fighters stood not far from Akira, their task was to protect him. Wagarashi and Wasabi took a step towards each other. There was tension in the air, everyone was extremely focused. They were waiting for negotiations to begin. Jirocho, how many years, how many winters? Hiroko grinned. I'm glad to see you. I can't answer you the same. Wasabi said gloomily. Considering how much you ruined my blood and how many times you tried to kill my grandson. What are you talking about? How could you think such a thing? Wagarashi feigned indignation, grinning disgustingly. Enough poetry, Wasabi, what is this meeting for? Do you think you can solve something today? No, I just wanted to look into the eyes of a man who personally tried to kill his own blood, his grandson. Akira had to explain everything. Mrs. Ayam tried for a long time to dissuade anyone from telling the boy anything about his relatives, but the situation demanded it. When Ayam came to terms with this, she herself volunteered to tell her son everything. The boy, although he was still small, took it all very seriously. At first he frowned, then, when Ayam started talking about Ariza, he pursed his lips. A tear fell from his eyes only once when he was reminded of his father. Akira took the information about his own mother quite calmly. Naruto thought it must have been some kind of shock. He asked a few questions, then looked at Ayam and said, I still love you. Then Ayam burst into tears. She held Akira close, stroking the boy's back and hair, whispering something in his ear and smiling. When all the issues were resolved, when everything was ready, Shikamaru noticed that Akira went outside. He motioned Naruto and Sasuke with his eyes to the boy who sat down on the porch of the house. The genin then followed the boy out, the Uzumaki sitting to his right and the Uchiha to his left. Nara sat down on the step below, looking at the night sky. You know, Akira, I have never known parental love. The Uchiha said honestly. I was always on my own, only my older brother took care of me. And then he stopped. I was always alone, I actually didn't have a family until my team came into my life. Naruto knew that then Sasuke was talking not only about their team from their home world, but also about the current Team 10. She knew that they Kakashi, Obito, and Shikamaru had become close to both her and Sasuke. They all replaced their families and gave them what they did not receive at home: care, attention, respect. My family was never there either. I tried to be kind and optimistic, but then, something broke in me. I realized that my family doesn't need me as much as I need them. And I closed in on myself, stopped understanding where I was welcome, who really wanted to see me. And a team also appeared in my life. They became my family, said Naruto. We understand how difficult it is for you now. You are a smart child and should understand what we are about to tell you. Appreciate what you have, Akira," said Sasuke. "Don't chase what you can't get. And always remember that family is not only based on blood. Family is the people you love and who love you." Shikamaru added. "I love my mom. I know that I love her. She will always be my mom." Akira sighed heavily. "Keep loving her. And my grandfather. Mr. Wasabi is a unique person. Everything will be fine?" Young Wasabi asked childishly naively. "We will do everything to ensure that your life is no longer in danger." Nara nodded. "I'll go to my mother and grandfather," Wasabi said, getting up from his seat. He waved his head at the shinobi and entered the house, leaving them alone. "Initially, I didn't think that we would make a team. We were so different. But now I see that we are much more similar than one might imagine at first glance. I love you." Shikamaru spoke quietly. "I feel something familiar and close in you. We have truly become more than just a team. We are family." Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru sat for a long time that evening. They simply watched the night sky, the stars. They felt a stronger connection between them. The last time Naruto felt such a connection was in the war, when Team 7 united. But this evening everything was different. Uzumaki felt that this connection would become stronger, more reliable. Naruto then exchanged glances with Sasuke, smiling at him and feeling a surge of unprecedented strength. "You didn't think, Wasabi, that I would so easily believe you? Do I believe that my daughter and your son really had a child together?" Wagarashi spat out, almost angrily. "I can prove it to you, Hiroko." Jirocho chuckled. "I have documents from the hospital where Ariza gave birth. The name of the child's mother and father is clearly written there." Hiroko snatched the papers from Wasabi's hands when he held them out. "It's a fake copy." Wagarashi growled. "I will tell you the truth. You shouldn't have believed her then, Hiroko. She really wrote you the whole truth." "How can I believe this? How can I trust you?" Wagarashi asked skeptically. He glanced sideways at Mrs. Iam and then turned it back to Jirocho. "Let her tell you. We can prove to you that Iam is telling the truth." Kakashi entered. "Do you know who censors are?" Wagarashi nodded. "We have such a person on the team. She will be able to determine whether a person is lying or not. Prove that she is a censor." Hiroko nodded his head at Naruto, recognizing her as the same censor. "There are 2 shinobi in that boat." Naruto nodded towards the peacefully standing boat. "One hid in that old barn, and another one was a few meters away from us, in those thickets. Level Chunin," Uzumaki reported. Hiroko raised his eyebrows. "I didn't hire those shinobi." Jirocho grinned. "You are lying," Naruto said emotionlessly. "There is no point in us lying to you, Mr. Wagarashi." Obito entered. "You yourself understand this perfectly well." "Fine. Let Iam tell you." Hiroko sighed. When the lady finished the story, the port fell into silence. The only sounds that could be heard were the distant sounds of life and the squeaks of small birds. Even Kurama remained silent, waiting for further developments. "Is she lying?" Hiroko asked hopefully. "She's not lying, Mr. Wagarashi," Naruto answered. "I don't believe. My daughter, Arizu, she couldn't be with Wasabi's son. She. You will understand everything yourself when you look at Akira," Obito said. He signaled for Sasuke and Shikamaru to open the boy. As young Wasabi moved closer to his mother and Naruto, Wagarashi let out a muffled groan and then sighed heavily. He took a step towards, but then stopped, peering into Akira's face. "He's a copy of my Arizu," the man said quietly. "He really is her son, isn't he?" "Yes," Wasabi said. "My Arizu. I only found out about her death a few years ago." Hiroko sighed. All this time I thought that she just didn't want to see me, that she didn't even want to remember me. I thought that I had lost the last person close to me. I know what you feel. Believe me, I felt the same way when my son left. And then when he died, I didn't think I could come back to life. Wasabi's voice sounded broken. It felt like he was holding back tears. Naruto felt an incredible amount of pain and regret coming from these two men. They were really similar. Both lost everyone in their lives, wives, children. They left them alone. And if in the life of Mr. Jirocho, there were Ayame and Akira, then in the life of Kuroko, there was no one. What should we do next? Hiroko sighed, looking at his grandson. I'm really confused. We can do something. Jirocho said confidently. We have someone who unites our clans. We have a lot of work ahead of us, Wagarashi, but I think today's meeting can be considered a start. The beginning of something new and large-scale. Will Wagarashi and Wasabi be able to resolve all their conflicts? Will Akira be the salvation for these two clans? Time will tell. I won't even ask how you managed to get into such trouble. Minato sighed when Kakashi finished the story about the mission. The genins, as soon as the Hokage saw that everyone was alive and well, received payment for the rank B mission and went home. In Namake's office, only Kakashi and Obito remained, from whom he demanded an explanation. The Uchiha and Hitaki told everything in general terms, without going into details of how they defeated certain shinobi. It's not our fault, Minato-sensei, said the Uchiha, sighing heavily. Yes, it's just that problems always find you and Kakashi. Minato snorted. What can you say about the genin? Were there any incidents? The genins performed very well. Good teamwork, mutual understanding. Uchiha showed mastery of the Sharingan, fire techniques, accuracy, Shikamaru excellent logical and strategic thinking, mastery of clan techniques and fire techniques. Obito reported. Nothing was noticed about Naruto that would cause concern. The use and surges of the Kyuubi's chakra have not been recorded. How does she behave in a team? As Kakashi said, they have a good team. They understand each other, do not swear, do not quarrel. I won't say that they are all socially developed individuals. They talk little, have little contact with anyone. However, if there is contact with someone, then without aggression or fights. Including from Naruto. Obito said in one breath. Minato looked at him thoughtfully. What else can you say about Naruto? Is there any cause for concern? Smart, capable girl. Quickly navigates complex environments and does not get lost. She will make a good shinobi. Hitaki shrugged. The team's shortcomings? Absence of Irionin. It was not useful on the mission, but situations are different. Some of them can be sent to training courses. The Uchiha chuckled. By the way, the genins themselves told them about this on their way home. Shikamaru started this topic, and Naruto added that they really lack Irionin. The team must have at least one person who understands basic medical techniques and who can provide first aid. Obito and Kakashi, who also noticed this flaw, nodded in surprise, inviting one of them to go to the course. Yes, good idea. Minato said. Send whoever you think is necessary. Yes, Hokage-sama. The former students of the fourth said at the same time. And now about the urgent matter. The Hokage smiled. My dear Kushina has decided to have dinner tomorrow night. She will prepare her signature dishes, and we will sit in the backyard of our house. Kushina was just waiting for you to return from the mission. She decided to invite your entire team, Rin and Hikaru, the entire team of Yoichi and Fugaku, with Mikoto and Itachi. So don't even think about making any plans for tomorrow evening. Of course, Minato-sensei. Obito smiled sincerely. You can go. After these words, Kakashi and Obito, using the technique, disappeared from the Hokage's office, making him wonder why there was a door in his office after all. Are we doing the right thing by not telling Minato everything? Obito asked as he and Kakashi walked down the street towards their houses. I want Naruto to have a quiet life. There is nothing surprising or special in her techniques, but let the girl develop without Minato's constant control. Kakashi simply said. She already had a difficult life. I want her to trust her team, to know that no one will hurt her here. I also want this. Obito nodded. At least she began to open up to us. Naruto, to be honest, was very tired after the mission. The whole situation with Akira left her so mentally exhausted that she simply came home and went to bed. When they left the Wasabi family, she felt a sense of relief. The girl was confident that the two clans would be able to solve their problems and come up with a solution that would satisfy everyone. After all this history, after opened wounds and frayed nerves, these people deserved a piece of simple human happiness. Ayame and Jirocho were very grateful to the shinobi for their help. They hugged several times before the owners sent their rescuers on their way. Akira made a promise from the genin that they would definitely meet again. Mr. Wasabi said that they are always welcome in this house. Therefore, the team went home with a calm heart. On the way back, the genin talked a little with their sensei about training and discussed the mission with them. Kakashi and Obito suggested sending one of them to the ironing courses so that at least someone on the team would have basic knowledge of medical techniques. Because of kurama, Naruto was not suited for these techniques, and Sasuke was simply not the kind of person who would learn ironing jutsu. By universal vote, in which only genin participated, it was decided to send Shikamaru. Whose vote, of course, was not taken into account. Having received money for the mission, the genin went home. Having agreed to meet tomorrow afternoon, Sasuke, Naruto, and Shikamaru said goodbye and each went in their own direction. At home, Naruto was met by Kushina. She smiled at the girl and asked if she wanted to eat. Uzumaki shook her head, saying that she was tired, and went to her room, where she spent the entire evening and night. Even the next morning, she got up later than usual, when Yoichi and Minato left to run errands and Kushina was getting ready for the evening's dinner. Naruto, there will be dinner tonight. The former Jinchuriki said when Uzumaki came down. Your team should come. I understand, Kaa-chan. The girl said quietly, starting to eat late breakfast. She was really hungry, as she had not eaten since about the last rest, which was yesterday morning. Quickly devouring her food, Naruto thanked Kushina and left the house to meet Shikamaru and Sasuke. When Uzumaki arrived at the team's training ground, Shikamaru was already there. He stretched out under his favorite tree, closing his eyes. Basically, Naruto didn't see anything new. Shall we practice? Uzumaki asked as Shika opened his eyes and looked at her. Pure taijutsu, come on. Nara chuckled, standing up and stretching. As soon as Shikamaru approached Naruto, she kicked him in the thigh. Nara jumped to the side, but then suddenly lunged. The Uzumaki had to block his blow with one hand. With her other hand she aimed at her comrade's stomach, but Nara quickly moved to the side. Shikamaru jumped and flew over Naruto, intending to get her from behind, but the girl was faster. She bent down to avoid Shiki's kick, but miscalculated. Nara was punching with his hand, so she managed to avoid the first blow, and the second kick hit her on the arm. The Uzumaki bounced away from the boy, landing a few meters away from him. Then the genins came together in a strange, but beautiful dance. Impacts were heard, sounds of cutting wind, quiet chuckles from Shikamaru. If there were people here, they would have seen the tangle of arms and legs, the flickering of shadows, and the Uzumaki grin. Sasuke soon joined them. Seeing that his comrades started without him, he just snorted and joined in their training. At first it was pure taijutsu, but when everyone got bored with it, all the techniques came into play. You're not watching your opponent's feet, Naruto. This is your main problem. Shikamaru said when they finished. In this remark, she completely agreed with him, for as long as she could remember, she always forgot to keep an eye on this, which is why she got into trouble more than once. Sasuke told her back in his home world that this was her main problem, besides the lack of brains, as he liked to clarify. I know. Naruto sighed. You need to train your left kick. Sasuke said, turning to Shika. Yes, and you got hooks. That's how they always discussed their training, pointing out each other's weaknesses. Shikamaru always made accurate and pointed comments regarding the performance of Naruto and Sasuke, and they, in turn, pointed out the shortcomings of his defense and attack. It's time for us to go. We'll be late for dinner. Naruto snorted. She was extremely skeptical about all this. As far as she remembered, Kushina was making this dinner to help Yoichi improve relationships within the team. And at the same time, relationships in Naruto's team that did not need to be established. I feel like it will be tense. Shikamaru noted phlegmatically. Even Itachi is here. Naruto chuckled, standing next to her lover. Sasuke kept a tense eye on his family, but had no intention of approaching them. Yesterday, when he came home from a mission, Mikoto greeted him with a delicious lunch and a motherly smile. She began to ask him about how everything went, but the Uchiha limited himself to a simple "everything is fine," finished his food and went into the room to rest. Mikoto then sighed heavily and shook her head. In the evening, his respected older brother came into Sasuke's room. Itachi stood in the doorway for a long time until the younger one called out to him. How long are you going to stand there? Itachi asked how the mission went, to which Sasuke answered in the same way as Mikoto, and then left. The younger Uchiha raised an eyebrow as he watched the door close. Sasuke did not come down for dinner, and the next day he came down when Fugaku and Itachi were not at home. He didn't want to cross paths with his father at all, but he had already told his brother everything he wanted. Are you going to talk to him? Asked Naruto. He and Sasuke stood apart from everyone while Shikamaru talked with Akimichi from Yoichi and Shirsui's team. I told him everything I wanted. Don't lose your brother because of your stubbornness. I understand that his behavior towards you was terrible, but most of it was the influence of your father. You yourself understand this very well. Said Naruto. I think Itachi is just confused, Sasuke, and that's why he's acting this way. I know everything, Naruto. The boy said nervously. But I'm comparing Itachi from my home world and this Itachi. They're similar. Of course, they are similar. Itachi loves his little brother. Naruto nodded, glancing towards the genius of the Uchiha clan. You already lost him once, don't let this happen again. I don't want to put you back together again, Sasuke. It's hard to restore something that never existed, in fact. The Uchiha sighed, plunging into memories for a second. So build it. Uzumaki shrugged. She loved these shreks of character in Sasuke. He was thoughtful, decisive and purposeful. But at the same time, he was too driven by his desires. He was completely captured by his goal. He did not see anyone or anything in front of him until he achieved it. Naruto was even frightened by this for a time, until she realized how to cope. She learned to control these violent urges. Build it the same way we built our relationship with you. Naruto added. Slowly, piece by piece, restoring trust. You can never rush in this matter, you know that yourself. Sasuke nodded. They looked at each other and walked towards their teammate, who ended the conversation with Akimichi and joined Kakashi, Obito, Rin and Shisui. Large concentration of Uchiha per square meter, Kurama growled in his head. When Naruto and Sasuke began their relationship, Kyuubi constantly growled, cursed and became indignant until the Uchiha himself decided to talk to him. Using the Sharingan, Sasuke went down to the fox, asking the Uzumaki not to eavesdrop. Naruto never found out what these two were talking about. Both Kurama and her lover remained silent. However, the inner world stopped shaking from the constant abuse of its inhabitant. Kurama, if he had not come to terms with the presence of Sasuke in the life of the Jinchuriki, then stopped showing this indignation too clearly. However, in this world there were too many Uchihas for one poor fox. Kurama couldn't stand the red-eyed clan and sincerely wished them a quick death. But, of course, he couldn't do anything, so Naruto again constantly had to hear about this disgusting clan and disgusting red eyes. About Sasuke, however, Kurama did not even renounce. Apparently, he decided that since Rakuto himself did not want to separate them, then he too would reconcile. Halfway to the right place, Naruto and Sasuke were stopped by team number 8, led by Yoichi. Uzumaki only raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Naruto, Sasuke. Haven't seen you for a long time," Chuji said. "How was the mission?" Yoichi-sensei said it was a B-rank mission. "Everything went well." Naruto shrugged, since Sasuke clearly wasn't going to answer. "We just returned yesterday afternoon." "Shikamaru didn't tell?" "What's there to tell?" Nara, who suddenly approached, chuckled. He unceremoniously invaded Naruto's personal space, placing his hand on her shoulder and patting her head. The Uzumaki threw an annoyed look at her comrade. If the tails had been damaged due to this action, Shikamaru would not have had a very easy time in the next training session. "Everything went fine, nothing interesting." "But this is a B-rank mission," Shino said enthusiastically. "Naruto, to be honest," was the first time I heard so much interest in his voice. "Not all rank B missions are full of adventures and battles with shinobi," Sasuke said judiciously. "At least you had something besides D rank. When your teamwork is good, then the missions will be more interesting." Yoichi entered, throwing a strange glance towards Shikamaru and Naruto. "Does he really think that he can't even touch me?" Uzumaki lamented indignantly, seeing how her brother looked at Shikamaru's hand. She also felt the gaze of Minato and Kushina on her all evening. It was as if they were watching her, making sure that, Kami forbid, she would not release the nine-tailed demon fox right here and now. "We have good teamwork," Chuji said, to which he received a skeptical look from Naruto's older brother. Uzumaki sincerely believed that the only normal, sensible genin on this team was Hinata. All this time, the girl simply stood, watching the conversation of her comrades and casting glances towards Shikamaru. "Yes, our Hyuga is now in love with this pineapple," exclaimed the fox. This was truly a revelation for the Jinchuriki. Before, she had never thought about who Hinata liked when they were at the academy. In her home world, she married into the Hyuga clan. They sometimes met on the streets of Konoha, and Hinata looked happy. As far as Uzumaki knew, they even had a child, a girl a year old. "You have no teamwork in principle," Yoichi snapped. "Well, Yoichi-sensei," Akimichi pouted. Team number 10, tired of listening to this argument, politely retired towards their commanders. "Naruto, Sasuke, you are what I need," Obito exclaimed when they finally reached the place where Kakashi, Obito, Rin, and Shisui stood. "Tell me, who is the better commander, me or Kakashi?" "Kakashi-sensei," the genin said out of spite, causing chuckles from Kakashi and Shikamaru. Although they did think that both of their commanders were good. Each of them gave something new, each of them had their own shreks of character that the genin appreciated. "Nobody loves me, no one appreciates me," Obito sighed. "Don't worry, dear, there will be a person in this world who will accept you for who you are." Rin grinned. "Thank you. This is exactly what I always dreamed of hearing from my wife," Obito said indignantly, but there was no resentment or anger in his voice. Everyone understood perfectly well that Rin really loved her husband, and the genin respected and appreciated their sensei. "But what's stopping you from mocking Obito a little?" "And I said, Obito-kun, that only one person accepted you with all your shortcomings, and that was me," Shisui said cheerfully. "I have no shortcomings," the Uchiha exclaimed in response. "Believe it, Obito-sensei," Naruto remarked caustically, to which her commander looked at her with obvious indignation. "You're such a pest, Uzumaki," Kurama said cheerfully in his head. After this conversation, everyone went in different directions. Shisui went to Yoichi, who was trying to get his team to talk, Rin and Obito went to look for their elusive son, and Kakashi approached Minato and Kushina. The remaining Team 10 walked up to the porch of Naruto's house and sat down on the stairs. Itachi-san wants to talk to you, Sasuke. Shikamaru said, leaning on the railing of the stairs. I see. The Sharinganist chuckled, casting a quick glance at his older brother, who had been watching him the entire dinner. Sasuke leaned on the railing on the other side, and Naruto sat next to him on a higher step, lightly touching him with her hand. Kakashi-sensei and Obito-sensei signed me up for the ironing course. Shikamaru said casually. This is a 2-week course. As they said, I will have time to finish before the Chunin exam. Are they going to send us to it? Uzumaki asked a question, closing her eyes. Yes. He'll be here in 3 weeks. Shika sighed. Problematic. The Hokage will be delighted. The Uchiha said skeptically. Then there was a comfortable silence, interrupted only by the conversations of people in the backyard. In principle, dinner went very well. Kushina set a table in the backyard of the house, on which she displayed her most delicious dishes. The guests happily ate all the hostess's food, and then thanked her for a long time. Sasuke ate the tomatoes Naruto and Shikamaru gave him with particular satisfaction. Although his comrades did not hate this vegetable, they did not have any special love for it, so without regret they gave everything to the Uchiha. When Sasuke and Naruto started living together, their house always had several kilograms of tomatoes in the refrigerator, and there were packs of ramen on the shelf. This was one of the problems of living together. Uchiha could eat only red vegetables, and Naruto could eat ramen. At this rate, they could get stomach ulcers. Kurama said that he did not intend to treat the illnesses he had acquired through carelessness, so Uzumaki had to seriously take care of his and Sasuke's diets. The Uchiha, albeit with a fight, agreed to support Naruto in her venture, so soon they both began to learn the culinary arts. In the kitchen at that time, there was complete chaos, there was constant swearing and eternal quarrels. But through torment and the help of the 6th Hokage, Naruto and Sasuke were able to master a fairly decent number of recipes. They stopped eating only tomatoes and ramen, although these products were always in their house. Yes, just in case. Sasuke, Naruto, Shikamaru. Itachi approached them 15 minutes later. Hi, Itachi-san. Naruto and Shika said at the same time. Sasuke, can we talk? Itachi asked without preamble. Sasuke looked at him, thought for a moment and nodded. Then he looked at Naruto. She smiled slightly at him, which did not escape the gaze of the clan genius. Let's go for a walk. Since you want to talk. Sasuke chuckled, getting up from his seat. He nodded to Naruto and Shikamaru before he and Itachi left. Sasuke and Itachi walked along a quiet street in Konoha. They walked a little away from the Hokage's house so that no one present there could hear them. It was already getting dark outside. There were practically no people on the streets, the children stopped screaming and making noise, the lights came on in the houses. The younger Uchiha always loved this time of day, it had a special charm. It was at such times that he loved to be alone, although most of his life he was already a loner, think about his problems, solve important issues and make decisions. Sasuke believed that the time before night helped to filter thoughts and be aware of feelings. He remembered how he realized his feelings for the young Jinchuriki many years ago, sitting in the forest near Konoha, on one of the tall trees. At that moment it really scared him, made him worry. Sasuke decided to hide these feelings deeply and for a long time so that no one would ever know about them. And he himself, honestly, didn't even want to think about falling in love of any kind. He believed that it made him weak, helpless. However, Sasuke was wrong. Naruto later proved it to him. You're very close to your team, Sasuke. Itachi said unexpectedly. The younger decided to remain silent. I've never had anything like this, actually. Is that all you wanted to tell me? Sasuke asked skeptically. What do you want to hear from me? Personally, I don't want anything from you, Itachi. It was you who wanted to talk. You have changed. The elder Uchiha noted reasonably. Your team has a good influence on you. I'm tired of chasing you, tired of being your shadow. Sasuke simply shrugged, stopping near the bench. He looked at his brother, sat down on her, and he followed him. You were never her. Do you yourself believe in what you say? Sasuke, Itachi sighed heavily. I know that our relationship has never been ideal. But I never considered you to be my shadow. I tried to protect you from Otosan's influence. You didn't succeed. The lack of support from my Nii-san in my life did not have a good effect on my psyche. What do you want from me? Nothing. Do you understand that by refusing to marry, you are betraying your clan, your father? Me? The Uchiha asked a question. Do you understand that by doing this you are ruining my life even more? You understand that you yourself betrayed me when you relegated me to the background, suppressing my personality. Who was I? Itachi Uchiha's younger brother, Fugaku's younger son, that son who is not the heir's little brother. I was anything but Sasuke Uchiha. The boy chuckled. I'm not going to become someone again. I want to become myself. If you think I'm betraying my clan, fine, so be it. But I will keep my pride, my opinion. Do you think that I have lost myself? What is the real you? I only know Itachi the heir. I don't know what you're like when you don't follow Otosan's lead. Maybe in his eyes I will be a traitor. Let it be so. But I am an Uchiha, and I always have been. I forgot about this when I began to be influenced by your attitude towards me. This won't happen again. I won't betray myself again. With these words, Sasuke rose from his seat and walked towards the Hokage's house. What should I do, Otuto? The younger man didn't have time to go far when a question came from behind him. Sasuke stopped and turned towards his brother. What do you want? Whatever seems right to you. Decide for yourself, Nii-san. Sasuke shrugged. This is Naruto, isn't it? That girl you're in love with? This question remained unanswered. Sasuke felt Itachi's searing gaze on him, but it didn't make him feel any worse. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had done right by Itachi. For the first time in his life, he felt that he was not losing an older brother, but, on the contrary, gaining one. The lust for murder was in the air. Naruto angrily launched a fireball at her dear lover, causing Sasuke to leave as a replacement. In the place where he stood there now lay a charred piece of wood. Uzumaki turned around sharply, and the loud sound of kunai was heard at the training ground. The Uchiha Sharingans were burning in her eyes, and the Uzumaki flashed Kurama's pupils for a second. Naruto used wind chakra and a blue glow appeared on the ends of her kunai. Uzumaki learned this technique back in that world. Wind nature chakra can be passed through a weapon to increase cutting power and overall attack area. The main thing here was to understand the principle, which Naruto did, so mastering this technique in this world was not particularly difficult. Upon contact with chakra, Sasuke's kunai began to spark, so each blow was accompanied by a crackling sound and bright lights. The Uchiha squatted down as a blue glow flew over his head. He tripped his beloved, causing her to stagger and fall, dissipating into a white cloud. The real Naruto used Fuinjutsu and pinned the Uchiha in place. He, changing the direction of the chakra, dispelled the Uzumaki technique. Turning towards her, he used phoenix flowers. Naruto growled. Literally. She quickly jumped into the air, flipped over and landed on the right side of her Uchiha, tripping him. Sasuke fell and Naruto held a knife to his throat. Then it disappeared into a white cloud. Uzumaki listened. There was silence at the training ground, and Sasuke was nowhere to be seen. Naruto couldn't even feel him because apparently he had hidden his chakra. The Jinchuriki abruptly snatched the kunai from her pouch and turned around, simultaneously fighting off two of the same kunai flying at her. 4 more guns were knocked away before the Uchiha landed near her. They clashed in furious taijutsu. Naruto's blows were sharp and fast, when Sasuke, using the Sharingan, deftly escaped from under them. His blows were calmer, more restrained, but no less powerful. The sounds of blows were heard throughout the training ground, the shadows of fighters flashed, and kunai were periodically tapped. Uzumaki hit the Uchiha in the stomach with all her strength, causing him to fly several meters away. During the flight, Sasuke managed to use a replacement, so now, alive and unharmed, he stood with the kunai near Naruto's throat. "Calm down, Uzumaki," he hissed. The girl sighed heavily. As long as she can remember, she did not like to show her bad mood to anyone. The only person who could cope with her in this state was Sasuke, so in her home world, when the Uchiha was not around on such days. Usually, if he was not around, he was on missions, she would go further away from the village. She took a mission from a Hokage of higher rank, left a note for her lover and ran away. If Sasuke was nearby, then they could swear and quarrel. Most often this led to fights. But this was precisely what helped her throw out all the anger. Only the Uchiha could calm her down, could cope with her. He didn't read her morals, yeah, of course, Sasuke and morals. He didn't tell her what to do or what not to do. The Uchiha simply entered into the usual squabble with her, which brought the young Jinchuriki to the boiling point. "Better?" he always asked when their fight was over. They could be covered in blood, tired. They could lie helpless on the ground. But Naruto was actually getting better. "Is your father really like that?" asked Naruto a question when he and Sasuke sat under a tree after a fight. The clan was always important to him. The Uchiha answered simply. "I won't let you marry some Hyuga. I'm not going to marry anyone. I've already told you this several times, Naruto." Sasuke sighed heavily. "I don't need any Hyuga." "Who do you need?" the girl asked with a grin, casting a sly glance at the Uchiha. "I need peace of mind and peace of mind. No romance with you." But there was no resentment or bitterness in Uzumaki's words. She herself was not a fan of showing feelings. Naruto doesn't even remember if Sasuke told her that he loved her. Although she knew and understood everything perfectly without words. And she never demanded this from him, just as the Uchiha never demanded this from her. And then, Sasuke and the manifestation of feelings? Sounds like the beginning of an unfunny joke. Walking through the village, Naruto felt an approaching disaster. All day she had a premonition of something important. Her premonition did not deceive her. She felt 3 familiar chakras. One of them was reflected in her soul as long-forgotten grief and pain of loss. In one of the alleys of Konoha, when she was walking to the training ground, the girl met Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara. The chakras of Dog No and Shikaku burned like native flames not far from Naruto. "Are you a leaf shinobi?" Kankuro asked the obvious when he almost bumped into the girl. "Do I need to answer this?" Naruto raised his eyebrows. "My forehead protector speaks for me." "How dare you?" The guy started, but suddenly small grains of sand appeared between him and Naruto, and began to spin, revealing the younger dog to the world. "Kankuro, stop disgracing our village," Gaara said indifferently, looking straight at the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Naruto did not remain in debt, she looked straight into his eyes. She wondered what Shikaku's Jinchuriki was like in this world. Was he as crazy and evil? Were you just as broken by life? She looked straight into his eyes, and saw in them something familiar, something close. Gaara wasn't crazy like he was in that world. His gaze was meaningful. "Who are you?" Naruto asked quietly. Then the Jinchuriki took a step towards her, then another, until he was close to her. But he leaned towards her ear and whispered a single word, "Kazekage." Naruto's face didn't change, but inside she literally rejoiced. It was her Gaara. Dear and beloved Gaara. And he recognized her too. She was so happy to see her loved one, so, without thinking twice, she touched his shoulder, meeting his gaze. The real world has become distorted, allowing you to immerse yourself in the inner one. Naruto and Gaara stood opposite each other. "Well, hi, Naruto Uzumaki." Dog smiled when the Jinchuriki of the Ninetales hugged his old friend tightly. I had to wait a long time for this day to see you again. How long have you been in this world? Naruto asked, unstuck from her friend. Almost 2 years. When I died, I met Rikudo, who said that you were here too. Gaara explained. He explained to me about parallel worlds and what happened to ours. When I arrived in this world, Gaara here was about 10 years old. And Shikaku? Nothing new. The boy was destroyed morally, thanks to the influence of the raccoon. I didn't have to do anything to take his place, he himself gave in to me, asking me to look after Temari and Kankuro. Gaara folded his arms over his chest. I fought with the raccoon for about a year before he recognized me. Shikaku has stopped affecting my psyche and now sleeps constantly. But Temari and Kankuro are still afraid of you. Naruto said, nodding her head in understanding. I'm improving everything gradually. The boy shrugged. How long have you been here? Almost 7 months. Sasuke and I appeared here at the same time. The local Naruto surrendered to the fox, he took control, but did not have time to do anything. Rikudo-sanin appeared earlier and dropped me here. Here my parents were alive, my older brother appeared, but they all fear and despise me. And Sasuke? If Gaara had eyebrows, he would definitely raise them. He's not doing well either. His clan is alive, but his father does not see him as human. This is in General Shrek's. The girl shrugged. Obito Uchiha is alive here, and he is the mentor of our team. Obito? Well, it's getting more and more interesting. Gaara chuckled. We have to go, otherwise your relatives will think that you are killing me. Naruto said sarcastically. I missed you, Uzumaki. I thought I wouldn't see you again. I'm used to this idea, you know? I was hoping to become friends with Gaara here, but I'm so glad it turned out to be you. Be that as it may, our friendship was special to me. Same as for me, Naruto. Gaara smiled. Just don't talk about special friendship to Sasuke, he'll get jealous. Sabaku remarked sarcastically. Oh, shut up. Naruto laughed. She missed him so much. However, many new questions have arisen, the main one of which is: if Gaara is here, then perhaps someone else has flown here from her home world? The written exam started at 10 in the morning, so Naruto had to get up too early in her humble opinion. Kurama always made fun of how she could sleep so much at home and so little on missions. Somehow opening her eyes at 8 in the morning, Uzumaki got out of bed. She looked at herself in the mirror, winced at her hairstyle and went to the bathroom in the most despondent mood. Having completed all the procedures, Naruto came back to the room, quickly dressed in her usual clothes, and put her hair in order. Uzumaki took her pouch, where she had put what she needed yesterday, and put a small scroll with some supplies under her jacket. She was ready for the Chunin exam. At 9 o'clock, Naruto sat at the table with her family. Yoichi and Minato were discussing something, but the girl wasn't listening. Her only concern was how the exam would go. Will everything here be like in that world, or will something change? And Naruto really hoped that something would change. She was not yet ready to meet Orochimaru, about whom she had never heard anything in this world at all. The only thing she knew for sure was that Gaara was in control. He wasn't going to kill everyone indiscriminately, or lose himself either. They agreed to meet at the second stage. 20 minutes before the exam, Naruto stood near the venue with her comrades and listened to the instructions of Obito and Kakashi. Stick together. The Uchiha spoke. Sasuke and Shikamaru nodded their heads lazily, and Naruto suppressed the urge to sigh heavily and roll his eyes. Remember that you are a team. Watch your opponents, don't trust anyone. Kakashi nodded. We believe in you, you believe in yourself. You will succeed. Of course, Kakashi-sensei, Obito-sensei. Uzumaki smiled modestly. You taught us. We will not disgrace your honor. Oh, Naruto. Take care of yourself. Be careful. Obito exclaimed, and something terrible flared up in his eyes. Uzumaki didn't even have time to take a step before she found herself in the strong arms of her mentor. Kurama, like a true friend, laughed loudly. Naruto sent him to Obito, they'll be so late. Let the poor girl go. Hatake intervened. The elder Uchiha pulled away and looked at Shikamaru and Sasuke. They prudently took 2 steps back so that, kami forbid, they would not fall under the attack of their dear mentor's affection. We left. We'll see you after the exam. So, grabbing the wailing Uchiha by the collar of his vest, Kakashi, having made his seals, disappeared in a whirlwind of leaves. Someday, Shikamaru, you will come under attack. Naruto nodded to herself and walked into the building. Sasuke chuckled at her words. When Uzumaki told her comrade that Gaara had moved to this world, the Uchiha was at first plunged into slight shock. While Naruto was telling him about what she learned from her friend, Sasuke listened silently to her, and then pronounced a verdict that Rakuto was up to something. This Sannin has some kind of plan that they cannot even guess about. After digesting all the information, the Uchiha decided that having another time and space traveler as his comrades was not so bad. And Gaara himself in his home world did not arouse in him the desire to kill or maim, which was already surprising. And all people aroused such a desire in him, with a few exceptions in the person of Naruto. In this world, he was not at all infuriated by Shikamaru, who had become, yes, Sasuke admitted this, quite a close friend to him. Kakashi and Obito, their dear mentors, purely theoretically can stop making him want to kill, but so far, this is only theoretical. Convince yourself of this, Naruto. Nara said sarcastically. Don't worry, I'll arrange it. Then you will know all the love and affection of our mentor. The girl grinned. Over the past time on the team, Naruto had almost dropped her mask in front of Shikamaru. She no longer remained silent all the time, she often offered something. When the 3 of them were without mentors, Naruto joked, quipped, and grinned. And in front of Kakashi and Obito, she was slowly becoming herself, she was no longer that reclusive girl. Take a chance. Shika also answered her, but Uzumaki did not have time to answer him, since the scene that unfolded in front of the genin forced them to stop. Naruto and Sasuke felt a sense of déjà vu when they saw Rock Lee prancing in front of Sakura as she watched in horror at the show. Are they also taking part in the exam? Naruto couldn't contain his surprise. After that skirmish, they didn't see each other again, and team number 10 didn't hear anything about Asuma and Kurenai's team. Our entire issue is participating. Nara nodded. So Yoichi and Shursui sent their team after all. Sasuke chuckled. Although I'm more surprised that they're participating. He nodded towards Sakura, Ino, and Kiba. Naruto and Shikamaru nodded. Team 10 walked past their classmates to the friendly squeals of Yamanaka and Haruno, who saw their idol. The Uchiha shuddered at the loud Sasuke-kun. The audience where the written exam was held was no different from the audience in the home world. And Ibiki is still just as scary. Many of the genin reeked of a feeling of fear. They swallowed in fear, looked at each other, and silently asked each other for help. Only a few shinobi in this room were completely purple. Sasuke and Naruto, who had long been accustomed to this man and had seen worse things, so to speak, Shikamaru, who did not fall for this trick with the terrible key from Ibiki, Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara, who already have enough horrors on their team, and Neji and Rock Lee, who were just themselves. All the other people in the room emanated a feeling of fear, some more, some less. Someone showed it, and someone hid it, making a lean face. When everyone was seated so that everyone. The teams were several desks or rows away from the other. And the teams' task forms appeared on the tables. Ibiki gushed about the importance of the written exam and talked about the 10th question, driving the students into even greater horror. What could be the 10th question? Thought everyone except Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara. Shikamaru didn't seem particularly worried either. He just raised an eyebrow in interest. The atmosphere was tense. Ibiki pressed with his eyes and smiles, the Jounin and Chunin watching the exam were intensely writing something on papers. Naruto glanced over the tasks, noting to herself that they were different. The tasks this time were more resourceful, more complex and confusing. Here, not every experienced shinobi will answer them, let alone an ordinary genin. Undoubtedly, students who studied at the academy, who have a large knowledge base, will answer at least some of the questions, but the rest will have a hard time. Although Naruto remembered that this stage tested not so much knowledge as the ability to obtain information and remain invisible. Therefore, most of the test takers began to cheat, some did it skillfully, others flew out of the audience. There were people who wrote themselves Sakura, several shinobi, from other villages. Sasuke, who knew that the work would still be checked, quickly answered the questions by finding a figurehead and using his Sharingan. Naruto used the help of Tenten's mirrors, although she could answer the questions perfectly herself. Use it while it lasts. Under this slogan, she began to write answers. Naruto didn't know what Shikamaru did, but after a while he was sitting calmly and looking out the window beyond the clouds. Those caught cheating were kicked out along with the team, so by the end of the exam, there were less than half of the teams in the room. Naruto must pay tribute. She withstood all of Leaf's commands and remained in the office. When the time came for the terrible 10th question, all the genin again shook with fear. Ibiki talked and talked, intimidated and intimidated. Eventually, several teams left the audience. Naruto wasn't going to give fiery speeches or inspire anyone either. Firstly, it would look strange. Secondly, this trick would raise a lot of questions, not only from her commanders, but also from the Hokage. Thirdly, she believed that a person must be confident in his abilities to take such an exam, so all those who were weak in spirit had to leave. Thus, everyone who remained in the audience passed the first stage. Then Ibiki began to explain the essence of this exam. The genin began to be indignant, but Marino stopped everyone with his terrible ki. Naruto locked eyes with Ibiki, who was starting to affect her. If Uzumaki had not been hardened by war and life, she would undoubtedly have been penetrated. The examiner, when Naruto met his gaze, only raised his eyebrows in surprise and chuckled. The examiner for the second stage was Anko Madarashi. Naruto in this world had never heard anything about her either. Whether she was the same student of Orochimaru, she did not know. She also didn't know where Orochimaru was. However, after scanning all the students when they arrived at the Forest of Death, she did not detect his presence. Kurama said that he didn't sense anyone like Orochimaru. He is not here, Naruto said as she approached Sasuke. Then where is this snake? The Uchiha asked a logical question. We need to find out. And you can find out this either from Minato, which Naruto had no intention of doing, or from Jiraiya and Tsunade, who were disappearing somewhere unknown. She could ask Obito or Kakashi, but she wasn't sure it wouldn't be passed on to the Hokage. In general, the hope remained that Jiraiya and Tsunade would appear in Konoha. And while Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru were listening to Anko, 3 well-known shinobi appeared near the village gates. Orochimaru, have you gotten out of your dungeons? Marvelous. The Hokage chuckled when he saw the great 3 Sannin in his office. Minato. Orochimaru smiled carnivorously. Why do I need to get out of my dungeons? Just look at you, Hokage-sama. You can also stop being white, with a hint of green. The toad hermit chuckled. You are witty. Orochimaru hissed. Tsunade rolled her eyes and slapped both men upside the head. Minato once again thought that these 3 were making some kind of circus out of his office. 6 years ago, when Tsunade and Jiraiya came to his office to inform him of their imminent departure from the village, they argued with Orochimaru for about an hour. The snake did nothing but laugh and mock, and Jiraiya answered him in kind. Thus, all this turned into a real clownery. Mrs. Senju silently watched all this until they completely pissed her off. Minato then had to shout at the adults. Experienced and strong shinobi, so that they would stop acting like children. Shout a few times. Eventually, Tsunade and her husband broke the news that they were going on a journey. Orochimaru announced that he was staying in Konoha to conduct his research. After Minato became the 4th Hokage, Orochimaru went completely out of control. His thirst for experiments, sadistic tendencies, and desire for eternal life were the reason for numerous quarrels and conflicts. During his lifetime, the third Hokage warned his successor about Orochimaru's affairs, but after his sudden death everything got out of control. The snake intended to escape from Konoha by kidnapping several children and shinobi, but Minato stopped him. After this, on his body, as well as on Orochimaru's chakra, there are seals that block his powers. These seals allowed the use of a minimum number of abilities so that the serpent would be less of a problem. Namikaze established strict control over his activities, his laboratories were under strict supervision, and Orochimaru himself regularly underwent various tests. Of course, all this control did not please the snake, and he tried to cheat and escape, but soon realized that it was useless. His teammates were intensively building their personal lives, while Orochimaru was trying not to completely lose his. After several years of unsuccessful attempts to escape from the Hokage's supervision, Orochimaru, although not resigned, accepted his fate. And he tried to find advantage in his disadvantageous position. Soon Tsunade and Jiraiya left, who, no matter what relationship they had, supported him as best they could. They did not approve of his methods and his work in general, but the couple did not want their teammate to be completely lost in this life, to be consumed by the desire for eternal life. When Jiraiya and Tsunade left the village, Orochimaru disappeared into his laboratories. Everyone kept an eye on him, he still passed tests and did nothing that went beyond what was permitted. However, he could be seen on the streets less often than Kakashi without a mask. In fact, the return of his prodigal team became a reason to appear on the street for the first time in 6 years. Don't forget that you are in the Hokage's office. Minato sighed heavily. He already had a lot of worries right now, and the Sanins were also weighing on his head. These people seem to be smart, but they need an eye and an eye, otherwise the village will be nothing but chips. How long have you been back? About a month. After the Chunin exam we will leave. Senju said. Interesting. Kage chuckled. Tell us, how are you, Kushina? Children? Jiraiya began enthusiastically, receiving a poisonous laugh from Orochimaru. That's what you want, you snakehead, can't you see that I'm talking to Minato? I didn't tell you anything at all, Jikuen. The snake hissed. Everything is fine with the Hokage, right? Yoichi-kun took the team for training, and Naruto-chan is participating in the exam. Orochimaru, I can speak for myself, thank you. Minato almost growled. How do you even know? Don't you leave your dungeon? The earth is full of rumors, Minato. The scientist said caustically. Is Naruto taking part in the exam? The spouses exclaimed, and the serpent giggled. How did you even allow it? How did you let this happen? The Jinchuriki are under control. Kakashi and Obito are captains on her team. They didn't observe any flares or release of chakra from her. Minato answered calmly. She's your daughter, not just a Jinchuriki. Jiraiya said harshly. Orochimaru on the side chuckled disgustingly. What if something happens to her? This is a dangerous exam. Tsunade exclaimed. Then he will show his weakness once again. The Hokage said coldly. The Senju glowed with righteous anger as Jiraiya radiated terrible disappointment. His student, who always valued and respected his family, treats his own daughter so horribly. We won't talk about it. I had a better opinion of you. Jiraiya simply said. Orochimaru chuckled again. Ugly snake. As Naruto counted, 28 teams qualified for the second stage. That was quite a lot, judging by Anko and Ibiki's words. If things continue like this, then at least half of the teams will finish the second stage, which was already not good. Such a large number of participants will lead to battles in which the Hokage will be present. Naruto observed the participants from other villages, how they behaved at the first stage, how they reacted to Midarashi's words. Ibiki said that this year, the students were capable and persistent, To which Anko smiled carnivorously and said that this could be fixed. The essence of the second stage, although it was the same as in the other world, but the tasks were different. The genin had to show teamwork and survive in the forest of death. However, this time there was no need to obtain the heaven or earth scroll. This time, all the genin were divided into 2 equal groups, some had a key, others had a scroll. Each team needed to have both of these things with them in order to open the map to the meeting point, the tower. However, this time the tower was hidden behind a barrier that opened only upon contact with the scroll and the key. The entrance to the forest of death was different for each team. Which group of genin would go to was determined by a draw, in which only team captains participated. From team number 10 came Uchiha, who radiated discontent with his entire appearance. So, team number 10 found themselves in the middle of the forest with a scroll in their hands. Naruto felt the approximate location of the tower, which was hidden thanks to chakra and seals, but without the key, there was nothing to do there. Uzumaki, Nara, and Uchiha had already been running through the forest for about 2 hours, trying to find at least some team nearby. Everyone Naruto felt was too far away to run after them and waste her energy. None of them are tired yet, but you never know who they will have to fight with. 300 meters north, Uzumaki said. In terms of chakra, the team is not too strong, but not weak either. You could say they are strong genin. They are moving towards us. Then let's wait. Sasuke grinned. 400 meters away, Naruto sensed 2 more teams, Team 7 from Konoha and Team Sand. Uzumaki mentally wished good luck to Sakura, Kiba, and Ino, hoping that these teams would have the same items. 7 minutes later, a team appeared on the horizon. Judging by the treads, they were from the country of lightning. The 2 teams stood opposite each other, obviously taking a closer look. Sasuke was sitting on a thick tree branch, Shikamaru was standing with his elbows next to him. Naruto was sitting on a branch below. The other team stood tensely on 2 trees opposite. Shall we fight? Or will we find out who has what? Nara asked phlegmatically, causing the opponents to freeze for a second. We have the key, some guy said. Naruto scanned his chakra better, but didn't find anything interesting, quite a strong genin. The other 2 were slightly weaker than him. Well, we're lucky. The first command and immediately the key. The Uchiha chuckled, rising to his feet and turning on his Sharingan. Before one of the boys had time to come to his senses, the Uchiha was next to him. The boy tried to do something, but Sasuke's Sharingan began to swirl in his eyes. 2 seconds later, the genin lay unconscious. It was fast, Naruto said indifferently. She rose to her feet and looked at the strongest of the team. He was already putting together seals for a technique to hit Sasuke, while the other was throwing kunai at Shikamaru and Uzumaki. Before anyone had time to do anything, Naruto folded the seals. A strong stream of wind hit the genin just as the Uchiha jumped onto a nearby tree. Shikamaru decided to play with the shadows. He made several seals and caught one of the genin in a shadow grip. When the strongest came at him, as Uzumaki highlighted, he let the boy go, placing him under the care of his teammate. Naruto and this genin moved from the trees to the ground, flying several meters. When they touched the ground, the genin hissed, falling on his shoulder, and the Uzumaki dissipated in a white cloud. She appeared from above, silently landing next to the shinobi of the Land of Lightning. The boy looked at the girl in fear when Naruto approached him and placed a seal that blocked chakra. Who has the key? The girl asked calmly. The genin tried to do something with his chakra, but his whole body seemed to be pierced by 1,000 small needles. He groaned in pain. Your chakra is blocked, you can't use it. So where's the key? Meanwhile, the last and strongest attacked Sasuke and Shikamaru. Surprisingly, the boy held out in taijutsu against Shiki for about a minute until his strength began to run out. Nara, although he was known for his laziness, but after all the months of working with the team, Shikamaru learned to turn it off. He became skilled in ninjutsu, although he didn't have much chakra, and in taijutsu. Kakashi often gave lessons to the team, sparring both against each other and the genin against him. So Shikamaru's taijutsu skills were quite high. Not every genin can stand up to him. And he can fight on equal terms with a chunin. When the genin got tired of fighting off Shikamaru, he made several seals to launch a strong stream of water. Nara jumped into the air and landed on the opposite tree. Shinobi lightning fell under the influence of the well-known representative of the Red-Eyed clan. The Sharingan spun, the world floated, and the genin fell from a tree branch. The fall was not soft. He fell almost next to Naruto as she placed the seal of oblivion on her opponent. "Is this a gift for me?" the girl asked skeptically, nodding her head at the fallen genin. "You guys are so cute. Although I like the dark ones." Shika let out a chuckle. The Uchiha chuckled, starting to examine the limp body. A second later he took a key from his pocket. "I'll heal him a little, otherwise the fall wasn't exactly soft." Shikamaru sat down next to the child, and a green glow appeared on his hands. Naruto thought it was a good idea for them to send the young genius to ninjutsu training. As far as she remembered, the Nara clan kept a book about medicines and their effects for future generations, due to which the clan could be called specialists in the field of medicine. Shikamaru told her about this back in his home world, when they were talking about medicine. So, if Nara wants to further study medicine, the clan can help him. Shika patched up everything he could. The boy didn't have anything serious, just a small broken arm, so Shikamaru quickly dealt with it. These two and the third, who was somewhere on the branches, were supposed to wake up in a couple of hours, so, leaving the poor children, the Konokovites jumped into the trees again. "Here's the map," Naruto said as she placed the key on the scroll. When the genin looked at this map, they realized that everything was not as simple as they thought. From this piece of paper little was clear. Only a person who understands maps would be able to indicate anything correctly. Nara was able to roughly determine the team's location based on their entry point and the number of kilometers they had traveled. "But why am I telling all this, Naruto? You know perfectly well where we should go." Shikamaru finally sighed. "You just spoke very interestingly." Naruto snorted. Who would have thought Namake's Naruto would be such a pest? Nara asked a rhetorical question. Kurama growled in his head. "Very funny, the rug has a tail. You two-legged misunderstanding. The tower is waiting for us," said Sasuke. "Then let's go." Naruto ran towards the right place, knowing that her team would follow her. The chakras of Team Sand and Team 7 were burning in the same direction. When Team Number 10 reached the place where the Konoha men and sandstones were, they saw a rather strange picture. Temari and Kankuro stood near the Konoha men sitting on the ground, and Gaara was a little further away from them, diligently pretending that nothing annoyed him. "You again?" Kankuro exclaimed when he saw Uzumaki. The girl suppressed the urge to roll her eyes. "Hi, Kankuro. Long time no see." Naruto answered indifferently, approaching Sakura, Kiba, and Ino, who were located near a cave. "Are you injured?" "Naruto!" Sakura exclaimed hysterically. "Haruno, please keep your voice down," Shikamaru said wearily. "Otherwise, all the other teams will come running to your screams. Are two not enough for you? What's going on here?" Sasuke asked skeptically. Before doing so, he quietly nodded to Gaara in greeting. "We were running to the tower when we saw them." The dog nodded towards the Konoha genin. Kiba sat with a scratched face, Ino and Sakura with a mess on their heads. Naruto pulled out a small comb from her pouch. After all, she was a girl and should always have this little tool with her. The Uzumaki, under the displeased grumbling of Sakura and Ino, combed their hair, bringing it into a more or less acceptable appearance. Shikamaru healed Kiba's scratches. "Did you guys fight with each other?" Naruto didn't even try to hide her surprise. "And we tried to convince them that at this rate they wouldn't win anything." Temari spoke up. Naruto was sure that by we she meant her and Kankuro, because Gaara wouldn't do that. He honestly and sincerely didn't like Sakura in his home world. Apparently, Haruno here was even more unpleasant to him. Uzumaki couldn't blame him. In her home world, Sakura was constantly hysterical at first, screaming and hanging on Sasuke. Sakura could watch the Uchiha and Uzumaki swear and fight dozens of times, but she never got involved in their quarrels. Naruto sincerely did not understand her, and Haruno did not even try to make friends with her, believing that Uzumaki was taking Sasuke-kun's attention. But Sakura changed. She saw how Naruto and Sasuke developed and grew. She sought to catch up with them, to become stronger, to be on the same level. The girl became more serious, she stopped being hysterical and began to look like a shinobi. The turning point in her life was Sasuke's departure from the village, becoming his new queen. Naruto promised to return him, and Sakura promised to become stronger. And she became Tsunade's best student, Konoha's best doctor. This pink-haired, loud girl grew up to be a real kunoichi and became a worthy member of her team. And all this thanks to the fact that she saw how her comrades were changing. She tried to stay on the level of Naruto and Sasuke. To stop being weak, she did it. Sakura had a real goal and incentive to develop. However, in this world, it is obvious that Haruno lacks a push. She is still driven by the desire to win Sasuke-kun, but it will never lead to anything good. Rivalry with Ino Yamanaka can be a good incentive for development, however, apart from the attention of the Uchiha, they have nothing to fight for. I won't even ask why you all got into a fight. Uzumaki sighed, approaching Sasuke. How did you get sent to this exam in the first place? It's none of your business, Naruto. Ino snorted. The only boy on the team, in fact, was not able to keep his rowdy comrades in line, so they did nothing but snap at him. Watch your words, Ino. Shikamaru said phlegmatically, standing next to Naruto. Your quarrels and shouting will not lead to good. We are now in the forest of death, around us are trees, strange animals, and shinobi opponents. Do you really think that now is the time to sort things out? I tried to calm them down. Inuzuka sighed. They started arguing over which way to go. Where are they more likely to meet Sasuke? It was obvious that Kiba had a hard time on this team. The girls had absolutely no intention of meeting us halfway, they constantly cursed and snapped. Usually Asuma-sensei and Kurenai-sensei calm them down, but they're not here. We don't need to be reassured. The future kunoichi exclaimed at the same time. In this matter, they showed amazing synchronicity. For the last few weeks, everything has happened without quarrels and shouting. We worked as a team and, according to Asuma-sensei, showed good results. So they decided to send us for an exam. Kiba continued. Akamaru whined pitifully on his master's head. Gaara called Temari and Kankuro over to him, starting to quietly tell them something. The older brother was actively gesturing with his hands, and the sister's face could not be described in words. Everything was displayed on it, from distrust to complete skepticism. Sakura and Ino, meanwhile, sat silently, leaning on a tree. Sasuke, Naruto, and Shikamaru took Kiba, as the most apparently adequate of this team, aside to talk. You understand that at this rate you will either be killed or maimed in this forest? He asked a logical question to Sasuke. It's all because of you, Uchiha. Sasuke responded to this remark with cool silence. Naruto suppressed a chuckle and Shikamaru chuckled. They're going crazy because of you. But this is their desire, said Naruto. They themselves chose Sasuke as their idol. As far as I remember, he did nothing about it. He exists. The Inuzuka groaned. The Uchiha raised his eyebrows. So should I self-destruct so that you can have peace and quiet on your team? The Uchiha asked skeptically. Kiba, we want to help you, said Shika. Still, we studied in the same class. But you yourself must understand that if you don't have a real team, then disbandment is a small part of what can await you. In the life of a shinobi, the team plays one of the main roles. Naruto said knowingly, folding her arms over her chest. She nodded to Kiba and, calling Sasuke with her, walked away towards Gaara. He was already standing alone, as Temari and Kankuro were talking with Sakura and Ino again. It seems to me that I just ended up on the wrong team. Inuzuka snorted. Teams are distributed for a reason. They are formed taking into account the abilities and character traits of each genin. If you are assigned like this, then you can truly become a team. Shikamaru reasoned. You need to find something special for your team. Something that will unite you. Did you find it? I heard Kakashi-san and Asuma-sensei talking. Your captain said you have good teamwork. You know, at first I felt like I was out of place in this team. It felt like I was really in the wrong place. Maybe this feeling was because I was tuned into Ino Shikacho, I don't know. Nara shrugged. We were all so different. And I didn't know what to do. I talked to my father. He advised me to take a closer look at my teammates. After all, everything is not as simple as it seems at first glance. All the moments he experienced with the team flashed before Shikamaru's eyes. He looked at what he was and what he became, and saw how his teams had changed. Then I saw that we complement each other. We are still different, but at the same time we are similar. This is difficult to explain in words. This can only be felt. Take a closer look at Sakura and Ino. Perhaps you will find just what your team needs. I never thought you could talk so much. Kiba sighed. Listen, I know it's not easy. Rubbed Sheik's forehead. It will never be easy. Every teams must work on themselves. But if you do this, believe me, the team will become your support. Has it become yours? Kiba asked skeptically. The Nara glanced briefly at Naruto and Sasuke. My team is not just my support. She is part of my family. Finished off Shikamaru. I love them. We are not a perfect team, but we value, respect, and love each other, and this is the most important thing. And I wish absolutely everyone to experience what I experience when surrounded by my team. What should we do now? Asked the Inuzuka. They don't listen to anyone. Make sure they listen. Shikamaru shrugged. You understand that we can't help you get a scroll or a key? Victory is only in your hands. Have you already taken what you need? Yes, we were going to the tower. Shika nodded. Thank you for talking. Inuzuka smiled. My pleasure. Nara nodded. It's true, I started talking a lot. With these words, he turned around and walked towards Naruto and Sasuke. Soon Temari and Kankuro finished their conversation with the girls. Gaara's brother and sister approached the others to finally go to the tower. After waving goodbye to Kiba, Sakura, and Ino, the two teams ran towards the tower. 6 people ran almost synchronously, jumping from branch to branch. They didn't say a word the whole time, and the atmosphere was a little tense. Naruto thought it was because of Temari and Kankuro, who were still afraid of their little brother. It's here. Notified all the Uzumaki when they were near the barrier. So, what is next? Kankuro asked skeptically, taking out a scroll and a key. Sasuke did the same. I think the scroll with the key should be placed here. Shikamaru said, pointing to 2 small pieces of land that were different from the others. There's more here, said Naruto. Gaara approached her, simultaneously taking the scroll and key from Kankuro. Such areas are scattered along the entire perimeter of the barrier. If you don't know what to look for, then they are very difficult to detect. The only difference is the height of the grass. Shikamaru sighed. Sasuke walked up to the spot and put down the scroll and key, but nothing happened. Naruto then decided to try something else. She imbued the scroll with her chakra, causing ripples to run across the barrier and causing it to sleep. Uzumaki walked through the barrier. Pour your chakra into the scroll, said Naruto. Shikamaru and Sasuke did just that. And when is the last one? The team did this, the scroll and the key literally caught fire. Obviously, this scroll is really intended only for 3 members of the team, so that later no one can take advantage of other people's merits. San's team did the same, so soon all 6 shinobi were in the tower. Well, Kankuro said. It was interesting. But what are we supposed to do in the tower for 4 days? Hokage-sama. Anko came into Minato's office. She looked at the village ruler with a mixture of surprise and joy. 2 teams completed the second test. Already? Minato asked in surprise. Yes, 4 hours after the start of the stage. This is Team Sand and Team 10 from Konoha. Team 10 defeated Team Lightning, and Team Sand took the scroll from the shinobi from the country of Earth. All the defeated shinobi are alive, but they were not weakly knocked down. Anko reported. The winning teams arrived without losses or injuries. Thank you, Anko. The Hokage nodded. The examiner nodded and left the office, leaving Namikaze with mixed feelings. Call me Kakashi Hatake and Obito Uchiha. He turned to 2 ANBU who came in right after Anko left. On the one hand, Minato was surprised that Team 10, which included the Jinchuriki, completed the stage so quickly. On the other hand, he was glad that his village had such capable genin. The Hokage decided to see how they would perform in the qualifiers, if there were any, and in the final battles. Having passed the second stage, they have already shown themselves worthy of becoming Chunin, but Minato needs to be convinced of their skills personally. You called, Hokage-sama? The voices of Obito and Kakashi sounded simultaneously. They again forgot that there was a door in the office, so they appeared through the window. Minato sighed heavily. Your team has completed the second stage. Minato said. Everyone is alive, without injuries. Thought you might be interested to know. Obito visibly exhaled. He was worried about his students, because he knew very well how dangerous the second stage was. He and Kakashi believed in genin, they knew that they were strong and capable, but you never know. Nobody knows how fate might turn out. And the news that the children had completed the stage came as a relief to the worried Obito. And Kakashi noticeably relaxed. Their team was the best. The 4 days in the tower were perhaps the calmest in recent months. No one touched anyone, did not swear, did not argue. Team 10 and Team Sand spent 3 whole days in the tower together until the other teams started arriving. As Naruto observed, not too many teams came, but on the last day, there was a large influx. A total of 7 teams came. Total 21 shinobi, which was a lot for the final battles, therefore, Uzumaki was sure that there would be qualifying battles. At night, Naruto and Sasuke were able to talk with Gaara, who had already slept little. Sabaku but told about what he learned during his time here. He closely followed his father, the Kazekage, so he could say with confidence that his father greatly respects the 4th Hokage and strives with all his might to maintain friendly relations with him. However, Naruto and Sasuke still did not know where the serpent was, so the attack on Konoha remained a big question. Gaara also talked about how things are going with Shikaku and his family. With the raccoon, they are on the you don't touch me, I'll touch you too path, which was already good. In their home world, they were not even on this level. Temari and Kankuro considered him a soulless. Who doesn't care about other people for a long time? Now they think he's just a who only thinks about himself progress. Therefore, they were very surprised when Gaara told them to talk to Team 7 and explain the importance of their work together. Temari and Kankuro continued to be afraid of him and watch his every action, but, as the younger dog said, this is a fixable matter. Gaara exchanged a couple of jokes with Sasuke, which neither of them took seriously. Naruto also faked his old friend. And everyone felt good that night, like old times. I remembered the time in my native world. Uzumaki remembered how she dragged her Uchiha to the sand village when the 6th Hokage sent them on voluntary forced leave. This happened a year after Sasuke and Naruto started dating. Then the Jinchuriki had not seen each other for a long time, so the girl, with a clear conscience, grabbed the resisting red-eyed one and dragged him to the sand. Gaara, of course, was busy at his job, but he freed up some evening time for his best friend. Initially, there was tension between Sasuke, who did not understand the warm relationship between his girlfriend and the Kage, and Gaara, who was simply being himself. However, after a couple of days, Uzumaki could not stand it and said, "I want my two closest people to be on good terms, so do what you want, but tomorrow I want to see your faces shining next to each other." With these words, the girl left them alone in some Sunovo eatery. Of course, she understood that these two would not become best friends, but they must resolve all their conflicts. Naruto doesn't know what they talked about or if they even talked about it, but the next day things actually got better. As the Kazekage later told her, "Your Uchiha is too possessive, Naruto. Give it to Kami, everyone will live if someone looks at you the wrong way. And when were you going to say that you were together? Not that I'm surprised, of course. We didn't tell anyone." Uzumaki simply said then. Wait, so Sasuke was just jealous? The Uchiha's possessive habits were not news, but until now, he had not shown them so openly. Since then, it has become something of a joke between Gaara and Naruto. Relations between the dog and the Uchiha improved. We can say that they became friends, which is surprising, because the last of his friends always had only Naruto. After this week's stay in the Sand Village, Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara tried to see each other more often. Either the dog will come to Konoha for negotiations and stay late, or Naruto and the Uchiha will drop by to see him after the mission. Naruto was very happy to see how people who were really important to her communicate, how they understood each other and supported each other at the right moments. So that night, which the three of them spent together, while Shikamaru, Temari and Kankuro were sleeping, became a small outlet, a piece of the lost world. They could just be silent, and it would be good. Naruto could be sarcastic and indignant, Gaara and Sasuke rolled their eyes. The Uchiha could say something quietly while the dog and the Uzumaki nodded their heads. Gaara could share memories, the other two smiled slightly. The shinobi felt calm and peaceful, although they were not in the most pleasant environment for intimate conversations. The days passed calmly, even boringly. Team 10 was talking about other teams. They thought about how the qualifying stage could develop and how they would fight. After the second stage, the team was not too damaged, so everyone recovered quite quickly. Shikamaru, Sasuke, and Naruto were full of energy. And they were ready to fight for the title of Chunin. Nara said that when awarding the title, it is not victory that is taken into account, but how the shinobi behaved in the exam. After all, a title is not just strength, but also intelligence, tactics, strategy, the ability to find a way out in time and analyze the situation as a whole. Naruto and Sasuke knew this already, so they could not but agree with their comrade. The qualifying stage began with a heartfelt speech by Minato Namikaze, who spoke about the importance of the exam, maintaining friendly relations between villages and much, much more, which made the genin genuinely bored. Half of the participants were dirty, beaten and battered by life, but they stood firm and waited for Minato to finish. Behind him stood the bored mentors, waiting for a chance to approach their students. Team number 7 did not make it past the second stage, but they saw Yoichi Naruto's team in full force. There was also a Sand team, respectively, 2 teams from the Country of Lightning, a team from Earth and a Guy team from Konoha. Uzumaki did not see the team they defeated in the second stage. Apparently, they still didn't have time to get both the scroll and the key. When the Hokage said that someone could refuse to participate without harm to their team, 3 people refused to participate. More precisely, all of the Stone team decided to leave the exam, citing poor health and a low amount of chakra. Thus, there are 18 people left, between whom 9 fights will be held. When Minato finished speaking, all the genin went upstairs to clear the arena for the qualifying battles. Soon mentors joined them. Obito-sensei, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto smiled. It was clear how the elder Uchiha was holding back so as not to attack his genin again with hugs, so they prudently did not come closer to him. We didn't doubt you. Hatake smiled through his mask. And you can cope with the battles. The main thing is not to underestimate the enemy. This is the main mistake of all beginners. Meanwhile, the first pair of names appeared on the scoreboard. It was a pair of unknown genin who were apparently too tired. Naruto suspected that they had entered a few minutes before the end of the period. The boys exchanged a couple of techniques, which were not very strong, but this was enough for the exhausted genin. They both fell into the arena, and the judge declared a draw. The next to fight were Shikamaru and Hinata. As Nara walked into the arena, he muttered something like problematic, sighed dramatically, and rolled his eyes. Hinata was already standing in the center, modestly staring at the floor. Well, this is the second fight. Nara Shikamaru vs Hyuga Hinata. Begin. Naruto, no offense to Hinata, believed that her comrade was much better prepared. But on the other hand, Hyuga are melee fighters, but Shika, on the contrary, is a ranged fighter. So Naruto was wondering how this battle would turn out, even though she was almost 100% sure of her friend's victory. The veins on Hinata's face bulged, and the pupil in his eye stood out clearly. She rushed to attack, which was very dangerous for Shikamaru. In an instant, he disappeared from the arena and found himself behind the girl, intending to hit her, but Hyuga did not allow him to do this. She turned around sharply and wanted to hit Shirku with the soft fist technique, but miscalculated. Nara crouched down and twisted his leg so that Hinata was on the floor. Nara jumped aside sharply when the girl's hand passed a millimeter from his stomach. Hinata rose to her feet and again ran towards her opponent. Shikamaru made the seals and shadows spread across the arena, intending to grab the girl. Give up, Hinata. Nara hissed. I will not give up. These were Hinata's firm words before he and Shika engaged in taijutsu. Nara was more difficult. He could not be allowed to touch his body with even a finger, so his movements were sharp and impetuous. He seized the perfect moment and hit the girl in the stomach, throwing her several meters away. However, Hinata still managed to hit several of her opponent's tenketsu, causing him to hiss. Landing on her side, Hyuga quickly stood up. She looked at Shikamaru, who was already making seals. Shikamaru-kun, before Hinata could say a word, she was captured by the technique. The shadow gathering technique has proven to be effective. This technique emphasizes minute control of shadow movements. It also allows you to take control of the prisoner's body, so soon Hinata's small hand rose up. Hyuga tried to break free, but she couldn't. Victory, Nara Shikamaru. The genin took off his technique and released the girl. As Shika stood back up to his comrades, Naruto smiled and Sasuke chuckled in approval. Obito and Kakashi patted him on the shoulders. Are you okay? Asked Uzumaki. She gave me a couple of tenketsu. Shikamaru chuckled. And so all is well. I was slightly shaken. Then there was a battle between Rock Lee and Gaara, from which the latter emerged victorious. Their battle did not last long. The Jinchuriki did not play with his opponent, so the guy in the green suit was defeated within a few minutes. Uzumaki must give credit to Rock Lee, because the one in his home world showed incredible strength in this to resist Gaara. The student Gaia was carried away on a stretcher with a broken arm. Overall, he escaped with little blood. Temari and Kankuro were amazed that their brother didn't kill anyone. The fight between Temari and Tenten wasn't anything surprising either. Gaara's sister showed her mastery of wind techniques, and Tenten showed her mastery of weapons, but the latter lost quite rightly. Shino had to fight against the guy from lightning, but this fight also turned out to be a draw. Aburame was exhausted by his long stay in the Forest of Death, as was his opponent, so a few minutes after the start of the fight, the opponents fell, thereby ending their fight. Kankuro and his puppets defeated another team of lightning. There are fewer and fewer participants. Shikamaru whispered. And a very unpleasant distribution awaits you. Shikamaru was staring at the water, because the fight between two girls from different lightning teams was followed by the fight between Chuji and Sasuke. This means that Naruto was expecting a fight with Neji, which she categorically did not want. They exchanged glances with the genius of the Hyuga clan, which is why the wide-eyed one only grinned disgustingly, which reminded Sasuke. The fight between Uchiha and Chuji was not very memorable. Akimichi used his clan's techniques to defeat his young Sharinganist opponent, but they brought him no luck. The Uchiha deftly and quickly moved away from under the enlarged parts of his classmate's body. Chuji used the butterfly projectile technique, but all of his chakra hit not Sasuke, but the arena floor, causing cracks to appear on it. Sasuke launched several fire techniques at him, and then, catching a moment when Chuji was too weak and exhausted, he caught him in a genjutsu. A moment and Akimichi lies on the ground, having experienced all the delights of the Sharingan. Victory, Uchiha Sasuke. Chuji was carried away on a stretcher as Sasuke went upstairs to his comrades. He looked at Uzumaki, who was extremely tense and focused. Naruto, Neji is a very strong opponent. And he will do everything to win. Kakashi began to speak. Be careful, don't let him touch you. You've seen what Hinata can do. Neji is several times stronger than her. Uzumaki sighed heavily when she saw her name and Neji's name on the board. The genius of the Hyuga clan jumped into the arena while Naruto was thinking about something. I know you can resist him. The Uchiha said quietly. We believe in you. Thank you. The girl smiled. She looked at each of the team, then glanced at the Hokage, who was watching all this, and at Yoichi, who was standing almost next to her team. She saw such a mixture of emotions in her brother's eyes that she didn't know how to react. There was fear, and despair, and prayer, but what did he want from her? Did Yoichi want her to give up the fight? Did you want her to not kill Neji? What was he trying to tell her? Naruto didn't know what her family wanted from her. But she knew the team had her back. Sasuke and Shikamaru smiled encouragingly at her. Obito and Kakashi gave parting speeches. This was the most important thing. Naruto went down to the arena, where Hyuga Neji was already waiting for her. In this world, she had not yet had to communicate with this person, but from the range of feelings that he was experiencing, from his facial expressions and gaze, Naruto realized that Neji was doing just as bad as it was in her home world. Surrender, Naruto. Hyuga said loudly. Just because you're the Hokage's daughter doesn't mean I'll be careful with you. I worked too hard to lose to you. What do you mean by this? My life was hard. I've been through a lot to become who I am today. I need to prove to my clan that I am worthy. And I won't let the Hokage's daughter stand in my way. If you knew me, you would understand that daughter of the Hokage is not a phrase that can be used to describe me. The girl said quietly. I don't use my status. First of all, I am a shinobi. Well, that's your right, Namikaze. Neji grinned. I warned you. Don't underestimate me. Have you finished exchanging pleasantries? Asked the examiner. Then begin. Last fight, Naruto Namikaze vs Neji Hyuga. Neji turned on his Byakugan. He looked at Naruto and then smirked again. Keep an eye on him. Do you remember what happened that time? Kurama growled. I need to defeat him, but I can't show my best. Naruto said as she made the seals. A huge fire dragon flew towards Hyuga, but he was too fast. In an instant, the clan's genius was next to Uzumaki, intending to hit her tenketsu on her shoulder. Naruto had to quickly go in the opposite direction. She made a feint, causing Neji to get hit in the solar plexus. The owner of the Byakugan flew to the side and crashed into the wall of the arena. The cracks were a clear indication of the force of the Uzumaki's blow. That's when Neji really got angry. Naruto created a dozen clones that began to attack the enemy. Of course, this did not scare the genius. He made his way through the clones to the real Naruto. And when, it would seem, the goal was achieved, Uzumaki disappeared into a white cloud. The Jinchuriki appeared behind Neji, but his vision prevented her from striking him. Naruto was sent flying to the side by the kick. Hyuga quickly ran towards the Hokage's daughter, intending to end everything with one blow. I told you that you would lose. said the genius, grabbing and hitting the girl with his fingers right in the heart. A small trickle of blood flowed from the Jinchuriki's mouth. You are no match for me. However, Niji's words were empty chatter, because the next moment another clone dissipated right in front of him. What? How did you do that? But the answer was silence. Niji looked around the arena, trying to spot Naruto. But it was too late, because the girl appeared from above. Hyuga only had time to feel a touch on his shoulder before using spin. Hinata, who had been watching the fight all this time, gasped in surprise. Your attempts are in vain, Namikaze. You're too weak. Niji said as he approached the girl lying on the floor. Naruto was breathing heavily and clutching her hand to herself, her eyes closed. The clan's genius towered over her, looking mockingly at the young Jinchuriki. Uzumaki, honestly, experienced a feeling of déjà vu. And when Niji turned off his Byakugan, just as the examiner was about to announce the winner, Naruto slammed her foot down hard on her opponent's leg, knocking him down. Naruto jumped into the air, forming seals as she went. Niji did not have time to come to his senses when he was blown away by a strong current of wind straight to the long-suffering wall of the arena. Everyone above swayed, but stood firm as Hyuga turned his eyes back on. He rushed towards Naruto, meeting her in pure taijutsu. Uzumaki remembered that no one could compare to the Hyugas when it came to close combat, but she saw no other choice. Naruto had to carefully monitor Niji, constantly move away from his attacks and not let him touch his body, otherwise the situation might not turn out very well. Niji hit several tenketsu, which, however, did not stop Naruto from continuing to fight. Uzumaki felt how the reserve of genius was depleted, how tired he was. A few more blows are deflected, and Naruto finds a chance to hit Niji. She makes a sharp turn to the right, throwing her leg forward. The blow hit the right side, and there were 9 teams. As Hyuga fell to the floor, Naruto launched a kunai at him, which pinned him in place. How did you do that? Whispered the genius of the clan. Your chakra is running low, am I right? Naruto said quietly. She walked up to the boy, made a series of seals, and placed her hand in the area of the source of the spell. What did you do to me? I blocked your chakra. The girl simply said, shrugging her shoulders. Will you continue to fight? Or will you give up? Niji was furious. He jerked with all his might, causing his clothes to tear in some places. He rose to his feet, intending to engage Naruto in pure taijutsu, but was unable to move as Naruto used Fuinjutsu. She held her hand on the ground, from under which came bright black symbols. They wrapped themselves around the legs of the young genius, not allowing him to budge. Hyuga tried to force his chakra to move, but it caused him incredible pain. The boy fell to his knees and groaned. The Uzumaki took off her technique, walked up to the genin and made the seals. She touched his back, causing him to fall onto his side. Naruto turned him over onto his back. You lost, Hyuga Niji. Naruto whispered. Advice for the future, stop living in your past, stop proving something to someone. You think that only your life was hard, you are mistaken. She heard Niji breathing heavily. You can change your destiny if you stop complaining about it. When you prove that you can not only talk, but also do something, your life will become better. With these words, Uzumaki folded another series of seals and passed them to Niji's chest. He blinked several times and passed out. Victory, Namikaze Naruto. The examiner announced, looking in surprise at the immobilized body of the genius of the Hyuga clan. Naruto looked up where all the other exam participants were standing. Unprecedented shock was visible on the faces of many, while others looked with approval. Sasuke nodded his head in approval, Shikamaru smiled, Obito smiled even wider than Nara, and Kakashi was just Kakashi, his look spoke more for him than the rest of his face. Naruto didn't even look at Yoichi and Minato, she didn't care what she saw on their faces. When all the winners came down, an interesting picture emerged. Team number 10 from Konoha and Team Sand would participate in the final battles. All the genin looked at each other. Shikamaru got Temari. Sasuke dropped Kankuro. Naruto will have to fight Gaara. A fight between two Jinchuriki was what the Hokage least wanted. Well, this will be a lot of fun. The genin have only a month to prepare, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara don't have a single decent word in their heads. Naruto returned home tired. The fight with Neji had gotten everything out of her, so she immediately went to bed, taking a shower before doing so. Naruto sincerely wanted Hyuga to understand what she wanted to convey to him. To understand that complaining about fate is a lost cause if you sit and do nothing. The fight with Gaara also came as a surprise to her. And she didn't know what to do at all. Her friend was strong, very strong for his age, but Uzumaki was not simple either. She had many abilities that she absolutely did not want to show to her father. Kurama's power cannot be used, otherwise her next location will be an interrogation room or an ANBU dungeon. Naruto mastered the Rasengan a month before the exam, but she did not dare to use it yet. She first needed a conversation with Jiraiya. The morning of the next day greeted Uzumaki with bright rays of sun.